make amends for it, and that's what Johnny Quinn does right here, because this is a tough catch right on the sideline. The ball is put where it has to be, out where only he can get it, or it's incomplete, but nice concentration to keep his feet in bounds.
Just the 5th catch of the year for Quinn. Another that has to help fill the void with Weston Dressler out. 21% of the Roughriders offense out of the game with the injury to Weston Dressler. Flag down, and the pass for Fantuz falls incomplete.
Sure, if Charleston Hughes was offside, or if he was drawn offside, looked like he got a jump from the defensive end spot.
And it's offside Saskatchewan. So that will be declined.
Offside, Saskatchewan, number 89. That penalty is declined. 3rd down.
So the receivers called on a couple of early infractions. This to Chris Getzlaff.
You can see he's over the line. Snap of that ball, and you can see that Charleston Hughes looks to his left. His peripheral vision picked up Chris Getzlaff, and that's what drew him.
Luka Kanji will handle the punting duties. 26.8-yard average last week. Decent punt. Marcus Howell. Penalty flag tossed as Howell is dropped by Jarrell Freeman. A 47-yard kick by Kanji. 8 on the return. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939. Great atmosphere today. Lots of green with the usual red-clad fans here at McMahon. Brandon Browner called for an illegal block, so it's a long field to start for Henry Burris. And the Stamps offense is to begin at the 11-yard line. A play-action fake and an incompletion, but a late flag. And this one going against Lance Frazier with the bump on Jermaine Copeland.
Contact just as the ball was arriving, according to the officials, though. The contact was made just before it arrived.
Pass interference, Saskatchewan, number 15. A 10-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
Lance Frazier had an interception, his 3rd of the season, a week ago versus Toronto. You can see the contact in the left arm just before the ball arrives. Good call by the official. You have to call that one, even though the contact wasn't severe.
So 1st down up to 21. And Burris dumps it off. There's Teo Johnson with a little room and a hurdling attempt that didn't work against the veteran Eddie Davis. There is a flag on the play as Johnson is dropped at the 35.
Seems to be a sense, certainly a sense of urgency in Henry Burris's play in the first 2 downs. You can see him moving around. He's got the focus in his eyes.
15-yard completion to Johnson going to be wiped out by this call.
Illegal forward pass, Calgary, number 1. 10-yard penalty, remains 1st down.
So Burris crossed the line of scrimmage.
And the one thing that I think we'll see more of, and what Henry Burris has done in his past, when he has struggled over a few games, and certainly he's struggled over the last few for Calgary, he will go and start to run the football a little bit more and try and throw from the run. I think the Saskatchewan defenders, they were talking about that yesterday as well.
The last 4 possessions of the game on Thanksgiving Monday in Montreal, Calgary turned it over, an interception and 3 turnovers on downs. There's a completion. Jermaine Copeland has the catch. Tad Cornegie, the tackle, up across the 25-yard line.
The one consistent factor in this offense for the Calgary Stampeders this year has been the play of Joffrey Reynolds in the backfield. 1,000 yards again for Reynolds and a nice 6.3-yard average. There's the receiving core. Jermaine Copeland in a bit of a slump with those touchdowns. Got off to such a great start. He has 12. And there is your offensive line. Rob Lazio in the middle at center.
With the catch, Copeland over 1,000 yards on the season. Reynolds first carry, and he's into the secondary. And dropped by James Patrick, the safety. And again, there is a flag on the play.
Well, both these teams have that sort of playoff type intensity, and you can tell they're pushing the envelope a little bit. We've seen quite a few flags right out of the gate here.
Offside, Saskatchewan, number 74. That penalty is declined. First down.
Keith Shulligan. That penalty declined because Joffrey Reynolds ripped off 18.
It's just a guy who has those butterflies in the middle and a little bit of a jump, but a good run by Joffrey Reynolds.
Reynolds with just 43 yards on Monday. Up at the 44 now, and there's another completion. And lunging to midfield, Nick Lewis has the catch. Game 102, his consecutive streak is extended.
Take a look at the Saskatchewan Roughrider defense. The two ends, Stevie Baggs and John Chick, combined for 18 sacks on the season. The linebacking core, you can make an argument for Tad Cornegay as their nominee for outstanding defensive player with the stats that he's accumulated. And there is the secondary with Lance Frazier, as I mentioned. He has one PI call, but had an interception last week.
Ray Williams outspoken about the fact it's taken 3 weeks for him to get his starting job back. Here's Reynolds off the left side, down to the 51, and he has 4.
Boy, all the talk last week across the country, really, all football fans, his question was, what is going on with Henry Burris? When you look at his first 10 games, he was averaging 300 yards passing. Touchdown interception ratio was decent. His efficiency rating way up there. His last 4, he has really struggled. We talked about it in the pregame show. He looks like he has that focus and intensity in this first drive.
They had problems on second down conversions last week, 23.8%. Second and 6, and they convert here. Flags are down. It looks like Saskatchewan had jumped offside.
I talked to John Huffnagel. We sort out this flag here, but talked to John Huffnagel about Burris. Said he studied some more film. He brought it back, took a look at the fundamentals. Is there anything that John Huffnagel, who used to play the position, could help his quarterback?
Saskatchewan, number 90. Penalty is declined. First down.
Stevie Baggs jump quick.
Right in the slot back, Jermaine Copeland comes across the middle. Just finds that little hole in behind Tad Cornegay.
Got the makings of an impressive opening drive. First down, Reynolds. Sean Lucas and Ray Williams are there to make sure he doesn't go far. John Huffnagel stressed, just make some first downs.
Yeah.
Get back to basics, and here they are with 5 first downs on the opening drive.
And Matt Dunnigan talked about that in the pregame show as well. Another guy who's played the position, has been in those slumps, and have to figure out how to get out of them. You know, you go back to the fundamentals, and Huffnagel said they're really the only thing that he saw in the film over the last 4 weeks that maybe Henry Burris was aiming the ball a little bit rather than just relying in his athletic ability and letting it go.
5 receivers set on second and 6. Yet another flag as Burris is flushed. Stevie Baggs in pursuit, looking for Ralph, and he can't make the play in the corner. Incomplete. Brett Ralph still looking for his first touchdown of the year.
And this is the other thing that most of the players here in Calgary are trying to stress, is that while all the attention has been on Henry Burris and his struggles, there are plays to be made on the field, and Huffnagel pointed that out, that some of our receivers need to play better as well, and Brett Ralph is one of them. He's had some problems over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and that would have been a tough catch, but it did hit him in the chest.
One in the end zone in Hamilton might have been a Calgary Stampeder victory at Ivor win. Guy that has averaged over 700 yards receiving a season for the last 2, on pace to be short of 500 yards this year.
Yeah, and you know, when you think about Brett Ralph and his 5 years in the league, I mean, the word consistency comes up to me right away. I mean, you just think that, okay, he's not been a game breaker.
Offside, Saskatchewan, number 97. That penalty is declined. Illegal participation. Player went out of bounds. Number 5, Saskatchewan, and came back and participated. It's a 10-yard penalty. First down.
Well, just about every rider is going to be called here. And we've had Chick, Shulligan, and Baggs all called for offside. Now Donovan Alexander and Lance Frazier for pass interference, or in this case, illegal participation. Roughriders hope they're getting it all out of their system on the opening drive, but it's been costly. Calgary's drive extends now to the Saskatchewan 22. Joffrey Reynolds testing the middle once again.
I think that ball might have come out of there, Chris. It was by the reaction of Henry Burris after he handed it off to Reynolds. He hustled back towards that pile like he saw the ball on the ground. Like the Calgary Stampeders recovered anyway. But you're right, a good start to the game for the home team as they go from the shadow of their goalposts all the way down the field and are now in the scoring zone. That ball is on the turf.
It did come out.
Burris noticed it and hustled back into the pile like it was loose, and it looked like maybe Jeff Pilon got it.
2nd and 5. They fake to Reynolds. Teo Johnson's got the catch at the 11-yard line. It's another Calgary first down.
The ball's coming out of the hands with a little more zip from Henry Burris, and the timing a little bit better than the last 3 or 4 weeks that we've seen, because he gets outside here. This is a pretty simple play that they run all the time, but he gets it to Teo Johnson quick enough that he could turn his shoulders, make a move, and get that extra 2 yards he needed for the first down.
Henry Burris is 4 for 4. He has not thrown a touchdown pass in the month of October. Reynolds left side. And he is met at the 6. And taken down. It's Lance Fraser with the tackle.
You mentioned Ray Williams in the Saskatchewan defense, Chris, and it's a good point. He wants to prove a point tonight. Or today. He wants to go in there and show, even though Mike McCullough played very well, it'll be him against Reynolds down in the goal line now. This is where we find out if Ray Williams can step up and do what he's been saying in the newspapers that he wants to show.
Stampeders have not scored a touchdown in almost 10 full quarters. 2nd and 5. Burris looking to the end zone. Anybody home? And incomplete. He wanted Brett Ralph, who was out of bounds, being tracked by Donovan Alexander.
Nick Lewis wants to get a penalty call, and Henry Burris is right down there in the face of the officials. Lewis was running it out here as Burris was rolling to him, and he felt like he got held there by Eddie Davis, the veteran. And you know what? I agree with the officials to keep the flag in the pocket. I think a receiver can work through that. That was right initially off the line of scrimmage. There was a bit of a grab, but there's a little bit of a push there as well.
So an impressive opening drive. However, Calgary has to settle for a 3-point attempt. DeAngelis from 15 yards out. Puts it through. And the Stamps are on the board first here with 6:23 left. Opening quarter. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. Good-looking drive, Calgary. 13 plays, 92 yards. 6 minutes, 35 seconds. 5 Saskatchewan penalties on that opening drive, but just 3 for the Stamps. Armstead from his 11. And a nice run by Armstead on the return, close to the 40-yard line. We'll be back with the Saskatchewan Roughriders offense after this. Ken Miller's Roughriders have committed almost an infraction a minute here. 8 penalty flags in the opening 9 minutes of action.
Yeah, they have to just settle down a little bit. You know the sense of urgency is there for both of these teams. Henry Burris did a nice job with his snap count, but Saskatchewan Roughriders have to just settle down a little bit and relax and play football.
Fake to Cates. There's Jerron Walker with the catch. Had a touchdown against the Argos last week. Short gain as he is stopped right at the 41. Brandon Browner there on the tackle.
Set up that Calgary defense. Charleston Hughes, his 2 sacks per game streak record of 3 straight games came to an end last week versus Montreal. There's the linebacking core, Dwayne Carpenter in there along with Shannon James and Tim Johnson. And then in your secondary, Keon Raymond. A couple games now starting at halfback. They've maybe found the answer there.
Second and 6. Grant flushed, takes off, and head first. I don't tell you how big this game is. Darian Durant has a first down just short of the 50.
Yeah, in his development, he just continues to progress. as he's going to take a hit. No thought of a hook slide from Darian Durant on this play. He understands the importance of this football game. He sees the opening just to the left side of the offensive formation there, and then it's one-on-one with him and Dwayne Carpenter in the open field with Shannon James closing quickly.
Jerron Walker is down, getting attention. Another guy out of that receiving core. You hope this isn't serious.
Well, Weston Dressler's loss really changes things for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, obviously, and the challenge for them is their offensive coaching staff. Paul LaPolice and Ken Miller now have to try and find ways to get the other receivers in the lineup, whether it be Rob Bagg or Jerron Walker if he's okay, or Jason Claremont, depending on how they're going to line up.
You know, earlier Ken Miller talked about Rob Bagg being a young Ben Cahoon, who of course moved from a wide receiver position inside and has been a dominant force as a slot back. And Rob Bagg played slot at Queens and said he'd like the opportunity, but with Dressler and Fantuz, he didn't think he'd get it. But now the opportunity is there, and it's there for him to take advantage of.
It is. And now the challenge for that coaching staff is to find out exactly what the strengths of Rob Bagg will be as an inside receiver. They know what he does as a wide receiver. Now they have to figure out what he does well as an inside receiver. Where can they use Jason Armstead? Paul LaPolice has that challenge now because Weston Dressler could do it all. So when he wrote up his plays for Dressler, he said, okay, we can do them on the hit screen, we can hand them the ball, we can go deep with them. Now they've got to do it by committee.
They did have plays, the Dressler running plays converted to Jerron Walker, but now he's on the sidelines. 1st and 10 after the Durant run, and he'll take off again. Darian Durant down to the Calgary 50-yard line, another first down. We thought Henrik Burris might carry the football more today, and right now it's Darian Durant on the ground.
And it's part of his game plan, though. This is part of what he does well, and why, you know, there's a lot of people talking about Darian Durant, his win-loss record, 12-6 in 18 starts, basically a full season now in the CFL, which is still so young for that position, but he has over 300 yards rushing, almost 400 coming in.
He just passed Quentin Porter. It's now Burris and Durant 1-2 in quarterback rushing totals this year. 1st and 10 again. Durant has an open man and out of the reach of Adam Nicholson, looking for his first catch of the season. 7th game on the roster for Nicholson.
And he has to try and keep running his route as he gets out there. He kind of broke out, turned around, and as he turned around to look back to his quarterback and Darian Durant, he stopped running. He slowed down, and Darian Durant threw him to the sideline and missed him because of it. So Adam Nicholson, who's getting an opportunity to play now, has to just keep running those routes full speed.
2nd and 10. Over the middle, Getzlaff's got it, cut down quickly. And is that a fumble? Calgary up with the football, Dwayne Carpenter. It will be short of the first down as they mark it Saskatchewan football at about the 42, a couple of yards short. Ken Miller's got a decision, long field goal. Do you gamble on 3rd and 2?
It is a long one.
Make sure if this,
let's see if this is a fumble first of all. And I think that arm was down by contact. Contact made over the middle there. Getzlaff goes down, and as he hits the ground, the ball comes out. So Saskatchewan ball, and it's a long field goal attempt. Yes, I know coaches have been reluctant to try the long ones. But remember, Jamie Borum is out. And now Luka Kanji is doing both. Now Luka Kanji's strength is obviously field goal kicking.
50 yards out. Be his longest of the year. There a missed field goal from length was a turning point in the first meeting. Kanji pushes it right. And Marcus Howell going to put a knee down. So Saskatchewan gets one. 3-1 Calgary. Calgary offense has been under the microscope for, well, a few weeks now. With more, let's join Jermaine Franklin
Thanks, Chris. It's no secret that the Stamps offense has struggled for some time now, and naturally, Henry Burris has taken the brunt of the criticism, and he hasn't played well. He's thrown for over 200 yards just once in his last 4 starts, but when I talked to Jermaine Copeland about his quarterback, out of pure frustrations, he just said it isn't Henry's fault. The offense is struggling as a team, and he said the receivers themselves have 13 or 14 drops during that 4-game time span.
They look good on the opening drive. Back to work from the 43, and it's Reynolds for 3. Marcus Adams in on the stop.
And, you know, and the other thing is he's had to, over the last 3-4 weeks, get used to some new personnel in the receiving core. You just saw a shot of Rami Bryant, and there he is again. Rami Bryant had a big game, a breakout game as a Stampeder last week, was 6 for 118 yards. So Henry Burris is now starting to learn what Rami Bryant does, how he runs his routes. Thinks he has tremendous speed and is a possibility for a big play guy for him.
3-man front for Saskatchewan. 2nd and 6. Big pressure. Dumped off. Underneath. First down. Up at the 54 as Burris got jolted as he released the football.
And there's the other guy, R.J. Franklin, the newcomer to the receiving corps. So he comes across on that crossing route, and Burris can take a hit, and there's the crossing route from Franklin. Picks that up. First down territory. So as he learns how his new receivers run routes, this offensive passing game will start to get better because of it.
Just the 3rd catch for R.J. Franklin since coming over from the Bombers. 9 games on the disabled list, so it's been a tough year. Good gain here by Reynolds. Into Saskatchewan territory to the Roughrider 47.
And that has not been a problem. Joffrey Reynolds has run consistently well all season long. He only has 2 fumbles on the season. All-purpose yardage, closing in on 1,500 yards for Joffrey Reynolds, almost all of them from the line of scrimmage. 600-yard games versus the Saskatchewan Roughriders is his career, so he likes to run against the Riders as well.
Now 7 back of Fred Reed for the league lead in rushing.
You know, it's great
Jeff
about
Pilon on the limp, and this will be a major cause for concern as the veteran right tackle limps off. And Godfrey Ellis, the Acadia product, will come on.
Chris, more of a concern in this game with Pilon out because of the defensive ends in Saskatchewan and Stevie Baggs and John Chick.
2nd a yard, they go double tight end, and Burris will plunge behind Tim O'Neill, celebrating his 30th birthday, the University of Calgary Dinosaur. The first down.
This is where your head coach and John Huffnagel has got to hope that Godfrey Ellis has prepared as a backup like he would be starting and playing. And, you know, at this level, you better be doing that or you won't be around for long, because he will be challenged now with Stevie Baggs and John Chick off the edge.
One of the reasons John Huffnagel didn't insert him at left guard is because he is the guy who covers all 5 offensive line positions. Here's Burris on a roll, and he is tracked down. Good defensive range there from Ray Williams.
We talked to Ken Miller about Ray Williams. He showed good speed there because Burris has speed around the edge and has outrun this type of angle many, many times in his career. But it's going to be good speed by Ray Williams to track him down from right in the middle of the formation to get out there. And Ken Miller said it took him a couple of games to get back to 100% with that knee injury. They wanted to ease him back into the lineup. Played special teams game 1 and more defense last week.
Should be the final play of the quarter. 2nd and about 3.5. But Reynolds has the first down on a burst. Open road. Touchdown. 38 yards. Joffrey Reynolds. And the touchdown comes over in Calgary.
And good blocks up front from Godfrey Ellis and Demetrius Sumpas in the middle, so that Joffrey Reynolds is untouched at the line of scrimmage. There's right there is Ellis, number 61. He gets a nice drive block, as does Sumpas, and the acceleration from Reynolds right at the point of attack. He is gone. Not even the safety, James Patrick, can catch up to him.
Huge first quarter for Joffrey Reynolds. And finally, pay dirt for the Stampeders. After 154 minutes and 36 seconds, a Calgary touchdown. First quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
You know, this is going to be a close game down to the wire. You just have that feeling. It's got playoff intensity. Big questions about the Calgary offense. It looks like they've found some solutions, and Henry Burris looks focused and ready to play. Had a good first quarter.
Best we've seen that offense in the month. I know we've looked better, but it's all for a good cause.
Yes, yes. Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so we're trying to do our part, and yeah, and support a great cause. So $20 donations minimum. Send it in. There's the website, and yeah, we're going to do our part here.
Yep, Pink Power, and we salute Wes Lysak, as Dave Randorf mentioned in the pregame show. Wes is fronting the cause here for the Calgary Stampeders. Both a couple of grandmothers had to battle breast cancer, and so a worthy cause, and a lot of pink in the stands here for the game. Armstead on the return, and it's a good one for the Roughriders. Jason Armstead across midfield, and finally tracked by Milton Collins.
Well, that's what I mean about that playoff intensity, and the fact that you just have the feeling that this one's going right down to the wire, even though that first quarter played pretty well by the Calgary Stampeders, especially on offense. But this is the response the Riders needed. A good return to give Darian Durant some nice field position as Armstead shows you his speed to the outside and around the edge.
48 yards on the return. Taking it to the Calgary 50-yard line after Joffrey Reynolds with the big touchdown for the Stamps to open up a 10-1 lead. Stu Ford in at running back, and Ford finds a little opening down to the 41, and you can hear the Stews echo through McMahon from the large Rough Rider contingent.
Stu Ford, 20 carries coming in. He has just over a 5-yard average. It seems to me, though, when he touches the football, whether it be on special teams or occasionally on offense, he makes things happen. And he'll give Wes Cates a bit of a rest. They want Wes Cates full speed down the stretch, especially with the loss of Weston Dressler, one of the other weapons on the offensive side of the ball.
Second and yards, Zarka in. And Chris Zarka takes the handoff, and he'll plunge for a first down.
You know, when you talk about teams that have had problems in short yardage when they've tried to gamble on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and even less than 1, the BC Lions know about those problems, and there are teams that have struggled. That's not a bad idea right there, is to just on 2nd down when you're 3 or 4, hit it to your fullback. You know, go to the fullback, the big man up there, let him pound it in there and see if you can't pick up 4 or 5 on 2nd and not get to that 3rd and inches situation.
Ford remains the tailback, and play action fake. Durant sets it up for Andy Fantuz. He's got it down at the 15.
Fantuz does a nice job of using his body to ward off the defenders. He's going to come from the inside receiver position here, run the corner route down the field, inside leverage, and then cut right back against the flow on Keon Raymond, and then he slows up enough so that Raymond has to work through his body to try and get to the football, and he can't do it.
23 for Fantuz. 2 minutes into the second quarter, and now the Rough Riders threaten. Durant dumps it off. Getzlaff's got it. And he is dropped at the 6-yard line.
And this ball just a little bit off from Durant, or Getzlaff may score on it because he starts from the left side of the formation, and I can tell right from the get-go he's going to come across here quickly that he was the intended target. They've used this play before. If they get it out in front of him, he could turn the corner, and he's one-on-one with Browner down near the goal line. But because the ball was thrown a little bit behind, there was some pressure on Darian Durant. That's probably why it happened. And that made Chris Getzlaff turn around and have to make a couple moves.
Claybrooks with that shot, and John Eubanks the tackle at 2nd and 1. And again, Zarka, touchdown! Chris Zarka has his 3rd touchdown, and a response from the Rough Riders.
What an answer. And it starts with field position and a real positive play on a return from Jason Armstead. And they're just going to pound it in there a couple of times in key situations now. Zarka's got the required yardage.
The big fullback hits pay dirt for the 3rd time this year. Kanji to add the extra point. And it's 10-8 Calgary, early 2nd quarter. CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. This is our beer. That was a Canadian drive.
Yeah.
Sarka capped it, but big plays by Ford and Fantus. And the response you want to see if you're a Rough Rider fan, you're in a big game in Calgary.
That's most importantly the answer that Darian Durant generates after the Joffrey Reynolds touchdown.
Demetrius Summers, he's been dangerous lately. He gets dragged down here, downfield cover.
Starts out with good field position from the return from Jason Armstead, but you're right, it was the Canada drive after that. Canadian receiver Andy Fantus, Canadian receiver Chris Getzlaff, and to cap it off, Canadian fullback Chris Sargent.
Well, they've made some changes on that offensive line. Looks like Jesse Newman back at left guard after missing a few weeks with a shoulder problem, and Jeff Pilon's checked back in for duty. So it's back to the original front 5 for the Stampeders with the flag down on that carry by Joffrey Reynolds, who's having a big first half.
See what that flag is all about, but Ray Williams just stepped into the hole there. I mean, this is what Ray Williams can bring to the middle of that linebacking core. So far, Reynolds has won that one-on-one battle between running back and middle linebacker.
Offside, Saskatchewan, number 95. A 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
Another different culprit on that Rider defense is Mullender is called for offside.
Look at Ray Williams right here in the middle of your screen. This is the guy who's got to try and slow down Joffrey Reynolds, and if he can do this, scrape to the hole and step right into it like that, he will slow down Reynolds.
So with the penalty, 1st and 5. And it's dumped off Big Teo Johnson. Cut down by Donovan Alexander.
Which is really, as a defensive back, Chris, all you can do when you have a guy like Teo Johnson coming at you.
6'5", 260 bearing down on you.
Yeah, and you're 5'11", 185, and in Donovan Alexander, you just try and chop that big oak tree down.
Good sure tackle, but it is a first down after 7 for Johnson. And now Robbie Bryant, the hitch. And Bryant has another Calgary first down, or should be close. Looks like it is enough to move the chains.
Offensive coordinator George Cortez used Robbie Bryant a lot more in the offensive game plan last week in Montreal. I mentioned he had over 100 yards, and he also set up a hitch and go in that game that didn't work out because Nick Lewis lost the ball in the sun, but that's kind of the start of the same process right there. A little hitch out there to Robbie Bryant.
167 yards of offense so far in a third of a football game for the Stampeders. Another flag as Reynolds is met at midfield. Yard or 2. I think this time it's going against Calgary. We'll see. And it is this time offside Stampeders.
And Jermaine Franklin talking about how everyone has been focused on what is wrong with Henry Burrs.
Offside, Calgary, number 82. That penalty is declined. 2nd down.
We'll put him in a 2nd and long here. That was on Nick Lewis. But even his coach, all his teammates have been saying, you know, in the last 4 games, there's been 82 incompletions. And they've charted all of them. More than half of them have not been the fault of the quarterbacks.
He has been under 60% in each of his last 5 games. And John Hufnagel wants that number to be at least 60%. Passing situation here, a completion underneath to Lewis, and it's going to be short of the first down.
Full blitz from the Saskatchewan defense there. They sent everybody. So Henry Burrs had to get the ball out of his hands, and he had to do it. So this one's going to look like it's going to be a little bit short. Maybe decision time for John Huffnagel, but watch the pressure coming. Two linebackers in the middle. You're going to see McCullough there on one side, Ray Williams on the other. They're both blitzing. And Lucas from the outside.
3rd and 2, and the punt team comes on for Calgary. Not gambling. Did gamble a couple times last week.
Yeah, I did. But, you know, this is a good decision. I like this decision. It's sound. This is a good football game. Both offenses have been able to move the ball. You want to keep it away from him, I think, when you're punting this football on Jason Armstead.
First punt for the Stamps. Dales looks for the corner. Does he have it? Oh, this one is just about perfect. They'll mark him at the 2. Bert Dales, 47 yards into the corner. CFL on TSN action continues tomorrow. Doubleheader. First up, the Ticats and the Alouettes beginning at 2 Eastern, and then immediately following that, the BC Lions in Winnipeg to clash with the Blue Bombers. Three of those 4 teams in desperate need of a win.
They are. I mean, that crossover was sort of thought about 3 weeks ago as an automatic. Not so anymore.
Long field Roughriders. They started their 2 with Wes Cates spinning to about the 4. Charleston Hughes not letting him get any further.
Charleston Hughes trying to step up here and get the first 2 and out of the game for the Calgary Stampeders defense. He plays at that left end and just slides down the line of scrimmage to get to Wes Cates. Saskatchewan Roughriders in that first quarter did not have a 2 and out. Moved the ball quite well, but they need to try and get a little room here. Even a few first downs helps.
2nd and long, 6 receivers out from his end zone. Pass is complete to the 10, but no further. Dwayne Carpenter tossing down Chris Getzlaff short of the first down.
Yeah, and you know, when he caught that ball, Chris, I thought he was right at the first down marker. Dwayne Carpenter looked like he's a little slow to get up. Getzlaff's going to be to the right of your screen. He's going to run the curl right when he catches the ball. If he just goes back right there, see how he took an extra step back to try and get open and make a move on Carpenter. I think that may have cost him the first down. Carpenter looked like he may have twisted his ankle here. And his knee and his ankle kind of buckled underneath him.
They got a decent spot, but still a yard short as Carpenter will meet with Pat Clayton on the sidelines, and Luka Kanji will stand in his end zone.
That's
and
why
the question is, will he punt from that end zone?
Yeah, he's so deep. It's doubtful here, but that's why they ask receivers. If you've got 8 to go, run your route to 10, come back to 9. You should be okay. That was just a little shot.
2-point lead is now doubled to 4 as the safety is conceded, and the Stamps now lead it 12-8 midway through the second quarter. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. They are here in numbers, as they always are in Calgary. Over 40,000 were anticipated.
With first place on the line.
4-point lead for the home team after the safety. And the kickoff by Kanji to Demetrius Summers. And he will be drilled as Kitwana Jones and Tad Cornegate downfield in a hurry.
That's where Kitwana Jones can really contribute. Former Edmonton Eskimo. Doesn't get much on defense, but he can contribute on those teams. Henry Burris has put together so far a good first half. 8 of 9, completion percentage up there. Not big yardage yet. He hasn't really pushed the ball deep down the field yet in this game.
Been held to under 200 yards passing in 3 of the last 4 games. Stamps start at their own 36. Sholigan lines up outside. Burris throwing to Lewis, complete, and Nick will drive across the 40 to the 42.
Still searching for his first touchdown of the 2009 season, which is almost unheard of for a receiver with the abilities of Nick Lewis to not have a touchdown after 14 games.
and also short of a 1,000-yard pace, trying to extend his streak to 6 consecutive years of 1,000-yard receiving. So he needs to pick it up a bit in that department. 2nd and 5. Fake to Reynolds. Got him. And wide open. Nick Lewis. First down and more. Sean Lucas tracks him down from behind.
That fake really influenced the Saskatchewan defense, including the secondary, who should be run second and thinking pass first. But watch Henry Burris here with the misdirection. The line moves right. He fakes it to Reynolds. Then he comes out to the left. You can see how the defensive backs, including the veteran Eddie Davis, were influenced, and that left Nick Lewis wide open in behind them.
That might have got him back on pace. 31 yards on his 4th catch of the game. First down, Stampeders. Now Summers from the backfield. Demetrius Summers hit the hole hard. Down to the 25. Another Stamp first down.
You could tell, and you mentioned it earlier, Chris, that his production on special teams was going to eventually lead to some plays offensively. He was just really churning out the yards on the special teams, and once you start to do that, believe me, the coaches notice. And all of a sudden you become a guy they can go to offensively as well.
Also a guy that they designed the Wildcat around in Calgary, and now that he's back off the DL, we might see that first down after a 13-yard Summers run, and the #1 running back is in, and he just met Stevie Baggs head-to-head.
Stevie Baggs, you can tell, has done his video work. He's been in there watching closely, and he knows one thing about Joffrey Reynolds. Joffrey Reynolds is a guy who can make that cutback as good as any running back in the league. And what I mean by, if you're going play side, which would be to the right for Calgary here, Joffrey Reynolds is great at taking a step and cutting back against the flow. Stevie Baggs saw that and waited for him.
Loss of 1. 5 receivers out. Reynolds stays in the block, and a pump and go to Copeland, and he was all tied up.
Yeah.
And this time, flags are flying everywhere. Eddie Davis had his hands all over Jermaine Copeland.
Yeah, and this time the ball was in the air, and he was the intended target. Occasionally, and I've been a proponent of this, is that the officials will allow a little pushing and shoving down the field, especially if you're not the primary target.
Interference. Saskatchewan, number 29. First down.
But there is no question here. Ball was in the air. Copeland was looking for it, and Eddie Davis was grabbing him and holding him, and flags come out.
Davis, the former Calgary Stampeder, marked at the 3. First and goal. Reynolds, touchdown. So after a 9-quarter drought, Stampeders have hit the end zone twice today.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind for me is balance in the offense. One way to get Henry Burris some confidence. Continue to run the ball well. Reynolds is doing that, and now he's got Nick Lewis involved, and that's one of his go-to big play receivers.
Extra point from DeAngelis, and it's an 11-point lead for the home side here at McMahon.
Pretty good blocking up front again for the Calgary Stampeders. Only 4 yards to go, but they're going to really down block hard. Jeff Pilon from one side. They go right to left. You can see Jesse Newman in there as well, and then that puts one-on-one running back onto free safety James Patrick, and then Joffrey Reynolds at just shy of 200 pounds. He lowers his shoulder and gets himself in the end zone.
He stepped up and he didn't come though. Okay. So I like that.
6 plays, 74 yards in just under 3.5 minutes. And that's a big first half for Joffrey Reynolds. The CFL rushing leader, 7th touchdown on the ground this season.
Yeah, you know, one thing for Saskatchewan too, Chris, this year is that they've been a little streaky with their run defense. You know, they look like at times that they figured it out and they played well. Also, I wouldn't say controversy, but it was an interesting decision with Ray Williams and Mike McCullough at middle linebacker. Joffrey Reynolds putting together a pretty good football game running the ball.
DeAngelis putting it downfield, and Armstead and Ford had lined up in an I so that they couldn't kick away from Armstead, who has it here up to the 30-yard line. Well, they had a response after the first Calgary touchdown. Can Durant do it again?
Yeah, again, and here's just like Henry Burris has not gone really down the field yet. That's been one of the roles of Weston Dressler's not in the lineup. But remember, the last series was their first 2 and out of the game so far, but it was also down on their own 3-yard line when they started.
Durant threads the needle, and Andy Fantuz a catch for a first down at the 40.
It's all about timing for this type of play to be successful, because the linebackers for Calgary are dropping underneath Andy Fantuz here. So when he turns around, ball's got to arrive in about a split second. There it is. He just turns around, finds that hole, and if Durant is off on the timing, you can see how quickly the linebackers close.
And they have given the benches 3-minute warning here in the first half at McMahon. Well, we're just under 3 minutes away from Rona at the half with Dave, Jock, Matt, Schultze. They'll weigh in on this first half, and Jock might have something to say about a Queens victory over Western today, which I don't think is going to surprise many, except for Dwayne Ford, who will be wearing the tricolor next week. As his Stangs were beaten wide open, Jason Claremont, the deep threat, looking for his first Rider touchdown, and he's hauled down inside the 5. His biggest play as a Rough Rider, Jason Claremont, 65 yards.
And he takes advantage of a busted coverage for the Calgary Stampeders. He's the inside slot back, and what he's going to run is the corner route. Watch how the Calgary Stampeders jump up on Rob Bagg there and leave him. Keon Raymond leaves him, and so does Dwight Anderson, wide open in behind both. And then a couple of moves on Milton Collins in the open field to pick up another 20.
Well, there was talk with Weston Dressler down. Is this the guy you can lean on a little bit more? Biggest play of the season for Claremont. And now first and goal inside the 5. They fake that crosser. Instead, it's Stu Ford down to the 1. Does he break the play? No. Second and goal at the 1.
Like it was Brandon Browner who's going to make a pretty good open field tackle here, because see Claremont just to the right of your screen, the receivers were coming down one direction trying to create some picks and make it tough for the defenders to get past that. Stu Ford has a one-on-one open field there. Brandon Browner just gets enough of him to keep him out.
Brandon Browner slows him up. Tim Johnson makes the tackle. The short yardage team comes on for Saskatchewan with Stephen Giles at quarterback, and Chris Zarka and Cates in behind. It'll be Zarka. No, yes, touchdown. Zarka going high and has his second of the day.
Maybe there's a solution to any type of short yardage woes. Get yourself a good big fullback and have him pound it in there. This time Zarka goes over the top and his entire body and the ball across that plane. And another answer for Saskatchewan.
Just doubled his touchdown total on the season. And yes, 2 Calgary touchdowns have been answered on the ensuing possessions by the Rough Riders. And the big play here, the 65-yarder to Jason Claremont to set it up. Kanji the extra point. And once again, it's a 4-point game. And this is what we could have hoped for in a playoff-style clash in the West.
Yeah, and watch center Jeremy O'Day right in the middle here. And Zarka's going to go right in behind him. And just to the right, Mark Parento, and Jeremy O'Day gets a good push. And that allows Zarka to get up over the top. Softened up the middle of that Calgary defense. Gave Zarka a little bubble to hit.
So the Canadian content, again, huge on that second Saskatchewan touchdown.
Yeah, well, Chris, it's a good point because I didn't see Jerron Walker back in the huddle on that last series, which means we may see a lot more Jason Claremont in the receiving corps because of it. Remember, he was Nick Walker, and that could basically set up a all-Canadian receiving corps for Saskatchewan.
And Rob Bag can move back outside where he is comfortable. But we have not seen Jason Claremont deployed in a big fashion this year, quite like this.
And I know there's a lot of people in Saskatchewan wondering why we haven't seen Jason Claremont a lot more, and there's a couple of explanations for that. One is the play of your Queens product in Rob Bag and the great story that he has become. You're not taking Andy Fantus off the field, and Chris Getzlaff, his development has been really strong through the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, who do you sit down?
Under 2.5 minutes remaining in a terrific half of football here at McMahon, and Summers heading north again. Marker down as Mike McCullough finished off Summers at about the 41.
Well, this is a type of football game, though, that you love to watch. I mean, doesn't get much better with first place on the line. 2 well-coached teams. Henry Burris seems to have snapped out of his fumble.
Holding on a return, Calgary number 91. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's Tate George called on the hold.
He won't get as good field position as he might have had, but 2 well-coached teams, John Huffnagel and Ken Miller on the other side, and they know the urgency and importance of this game and what it can mean to the franchise to be able to host a playoff game, be able to finish first, what it could mean to your team to have that bye and rest. And remember, Grey Cup game at the end of November will be played right here.
Saw Burris's numbers, hasn't taken many deep shots. The one drew the flag on Eddie Davis to Copeland. This guy's running the football, though, and chewing up the yards. Joffrey Reynolds, the leading rusher in the CFL right now, as he has passed Fred Reed on the day.
You know, and the first time these 2 teams met, Joffrey Reynolds, who now leads the league, of course, Reed will play tomorrow. Winnipeg BC game. I don't think Martel Mallet will be playing in that game. They can go with A.J. Harris, but
Joffrey Reynolds with over 100 against Saskatchewan the first meeting. 6 times he's done that against the Roughriders. And a pass incomplete, intended for Brett Ralph. And it will be 3rd down, and the Roughriders are going to get the football back.
what is going on with Brett Ralph? I mean, you know, this is another one where he's got pressure, and I know that a lot of coaches call this the contested catch. But he sits down, and it's right in his hands, and he lets it hit the turf. If you're a tennis player right now, you're kind of doing that look at your racket like, what is wrong? Is there a hole in it or what?
Well, as the coach said yesterday, when it rains, it pours sometimes, and it has been a downpour for Brett Ralph in recent weeks. First 2 out of the game for Calgary. A line drive punt that bounces around on the turf, and Armstead has trouble with it. And has to eat it back inside the 30.
And I think he touched that, so
yes,
that's a live ball.
And no markers for no yards either, so that one was up for grabs.
Yeah, Jason Armstead was looking down the field. That ball bounced, and I'm pretty sure he touched it. That's why he hustled back to get it so quickly. Or maybe, yeah, he did with his heel.
Kick.
Yeah, he did with his heel, and he realized that and got back there in a hurry.
Charleston Hughes down there first to almost pick up that football. So 1:43 to go. It turns out to be a 48-yard boot with no return. See if Darian Durant can keep the offensive momentum going for Saskatchewan. Hit, and that ball almost intercepted as Durant was hit as he delivered the football, and John Eubanks tripped up and was sliding towards the ball as it was fluttering his way.
You won't get many opportunities like this. This is all pass rush by Calgary because the hit causes the poor throw. There was contact to the passing arm of Darian Durant there, and Eubanks just lost his footing and couldn't come up, which probably would have been a touchdown.
Jim Davis with the contact on Durant, and Eubanks with the one that gets away. 2nd and 10. Here comes the rush. Labiggio in pursuit to Durant, throws it away. Mike Labiggio makes an impact. A guy who might not have even been in the lineup today. Scout team all week, but Miguel Robide was going to get the start. Ended up hurt yesterday, and Labinjo makes a defensive play.
Yeah, he's in the stand-up position right here, and the reason he makes the play is because he's patient. He's double-teamed initially. A little bit patient out there in the open field. He doesn't want to let Darian Durant get outside and around the corner. So he'll just be patient, won't lunge at him too much, wait, and then go make him throw it away.
Back-to-back, 2 and outs. Kanji to kick. Howell awaits. Line drive picked up at the 35. And Howell lunges ahead to the 44-yard line. Kanji with a 46-yard boot, 9 on the return.
Lots of time here for Henry Burris. It's going to be an important drive for Saskatchewan, who's been able to come back and find an answer. When Burris put the ball in the end zone a couple of times and Joffrey Reynolds finished off a couple of drives, Darian Durant came right back. But with 1:22 left, there's enough time for Calgary, depending on what happens here, and Saskatchewan Roughriders won't get a chance until after the halftime break.
One of the best first halves we've had in the last few weeks. They faked the hitch, a little deeper, and that one broke it up. Intended for R.J. Franklin, and the corner Omar Morgan on the scene defensively.
He's having a great year. I think Omar Morgan out there in the corner has 4 interceptions. He's one away from tying a career high for him. And that's not a drop pass by R.J. Franklin. That's a pass breakup by number 1 Omar Morgan. He gets his hand on the ball, knocks it out of Franklin's hand.
A lot of veteran savvy on that boundary side. 10-year veteran Omar Morgan, 15 years. Eddie Davis, 2nd and 10. Pressure, Burris gets it away, and Nick Lewis can't reel it in. Back-to-back 2 and outs to finish.
Yeah, and this is what I think the other players, and this is what John Hufnagel was talking about. When you're blaming Henry Burris, and you see Nick Lewis, who's going to come and do this. You see Nick Lewis do that. You tell me if he's ready when he turns on this out. Is he ready for that football, and should he get 2 hands on it? I think Nick Lewis can catch that football. I think it's expected of him and should be.
Dales to kick it away. And Armstead's got a backtrack for this one. This one bouncing into the end zone. And Armstead's going to have to give up a single point with 59 seconds left. That's a 67-yard boot by Burke Dales. 20-15.
The nice one, too, the off corner right on the 2-yard line. So he's on his game.
It's a couple of punts by Dales that seem to have been misplayed by Armstead.
He had the one big return. Sometimes when a returner gets that big one, the big run, he starts to think he can do it on every play. It starts to take the peak up the field before securing the football, but you're right, it's a couple.
Still time with 35 seconds left. Rob Bagg has a catch, breaks a tackle, straight arm, and finally gang tackled up at the 48-yard line.
You see Rob Bagg in the middle, and you know, I wasn't even sure, and I don't think even Saskatchewan and their coaching staff is quite sure yet what Rob Bagg will do and be able to produce at the inside receiver position. It's very different, a little more physical, but that's a good start for Bagg. Takes a couple of hits.
Grant over the middle, another completion to Andy Fantuz. They're into Calgary territory. So back-to-back completions.
Saskatchewan got the big 2-and-out from their defense. Yes, it was a good punt by Burke Dales, but Darian Durant's got him on the move here. Quick throws, quick passing game, not going much deeper than about 10, 15 yards.
In come Chris Zarka, Neil Hughes. 2nd and a yard and a half or so. Fake to Cates. Durant has to go the other way and ends up throwing that ball away, and it'll be 3rd down.
This is one thing that Darian Durant learned about week 3 of the season, that this type of play where you can just save the loss, and I know it's only a yard and you're going, you know, that's a missed opportunity, but Darian Durant in his last 4 games has completed over 60% of his passes. And the coverage is good downfield. If you force it there, you might get the interception.
3rd and a yard and a half. Stephen Giles is in. They stay out in the field, and Giles has the first down. Gutsy play. Gutsy call by Ken Miller, and there's still time to cut into this lead, perhaps take the halftime lead.
It's gutsy because it was a little over a yard. You could see those first down markers right in front of you there. And that's why it's a gutsy one, because you give Henry Burris, if you don't get it, a chance to maybe 2 plays away from at least field goal position. But now it's Stephen Giles up in there, and one more throw, and you've got at least a field goal try. Ken Miller, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, can get some points and close the gap.
Well, a la Adrian McPherson on that.
Yeah.
Short yardage situation. Ken Miller's team has a first down, 18 seconds, so a couple of plays to get a little closer as Durant directs traffic. Probably need another 10.
You see, sorry, Chris, Rob Bagg there, he was lined up about 10-15 yards deep. See what this delay is. One of the things that he has to get used to now is using that waggle to his advantage at the inside slot back spot. As a wideout, you're pretty much static on the line of scrimmage.
Well, Kim Murphy wanted everybody to reset, and they have, and now we're ready to go. Durant looks downfield. He's looking for Fantuz in a battle, and he came down with it. Andy Fantuz has the catch. They're going to mark him at the 9.
Well, they were battling for this as they both went down, and did Andy Fantuz survive the contact with the ground, have possession of the ball. Love his composure. Little double move there on Keon Raymond, and then great composure when the ball arrives, wins the jump, gets his feet down, looks like he has control there, hits the ground, and it comes out after. I think that's a catch as long as he's in bounds.
It will be a 40-yard grab,
and
clearly in bounds. There is a challenge from the Calgary sideline. But with the precedent of a few weeks ago here at McMahon.
Well, he's got control there, and he's touched down on the ground, and then it doesn't come out till he hits the ground with his
Calgary
elbow.
is challenging the ruling on the field of a completed pass.
I mean, not a bad challenge here for John Hufnagel. This is an important play because it gives Darian Durant a shot at the end zone.
Time for 2 shots, you would think, inside the 10 with the 11 seconds to go.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you don't get the first one, you might think about a field goal at that point. But no question, a good challenge for John Hufnagel. Take a look at this, but I think this is a catch, Chris. I mean, he has secured the ball there. He's in bounds on both feet. Now, Keon Raymond is trying to rip it out. He hits the ground there, and I think he still has basic possession there. It comes out after he rolls. So that's essentially down by contact, and he survived the ground because he landed with both feet on the ground.
Well, again,
After review, the ruling on the field stands as a completed catch. First down.
it would be hard to be anything else after what we saw here, that Nick Lewis catch a few weeks ago.
And how about the composure when the ball arrives and timing his jump absolutely perfectly to go up over the top of Keon Raymond.
You know, Copeland's great at that, but Fantuz one of the best in those contested catch situations. Here we go. From the 8, first and goal. Quick header to the goal line, and almost intercepted. Keon Raymond burned on the last play, almost made up for it, and he had quick 6 on his mind.
And they will go, I believe, with the field goal attempt here. One crack at the end zone. Keon Raymond breaks on this one. John Hufnagel talked to us about this yesterday, and he said, you know, everybody's got to step up a little bit, and I would rack this up as a minus. A great break on the ball, but if you're grading this on Keon Raymond, he had it in both hands. If he catches that, only Darian Durant has a chance to tackle him, or he goes the distance.
That play only took 4 seconds, so They might have had time for another, but they're not.
No, I don't think you risk it.
Kanji to just get 3, make it a 2018 game, and that he does. 1 for 2 on the day after missing from 50. Good first half. Both teams can look at some positives.
You look at Ken Miller and what he's done, fighting for first place in the West Division with a quarterback with exactly 1 season of starts. 18 starts, and how many times throughout the last few years when you have a young quarterback, have we said it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 years for this guy to develop? It just doesn't happen at this level where you can step in. But when you have a young guy with just 18 starts and those kind of numbers in the starts, and yeah, the touchdown interception ratio he can improve on, but the bottom line for quarterbacks is that one at the top. Win-loss. And Darian Durant is 12-6 in those 18 starts and going throw for throw with Henry Burris, last year's outstanding player in the Grey Cup.
Nothing wrong with those numbers through the first half. He's an impressive guy. Both quarterbacks are 2 of the guys you like to talk to, and they are both pros. Henry Burris and Darian Durant in every sense of the word. Summers on what should be the final play of this first half. Out across the 40, and time has expired. The Calgary Stampeders have a 2-point lead as they head to the locker after 30 minutes. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL and proud home of the Grey Cup, which will be played here at McMahon Stadium. Great first half, 20-18. Stamps lead as we head to the second half. But first, Jermaine Franklin with Ken Miller.
Coach Miller, every time Calgary's offense produced something, you seem to answer right back with your offense. Can you talk a little bit about that effort?
Well, really, our offense has been pretty dynamic. The thing we need to do is we want to just not make big plays. We want to control the football a little bit. On defense, we want to break their rhythm like we did toward the end of the half there, and then get our offense on the field for longer periods of time.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
You know, I think he was saying, don't get me wrong, we like the big plays. Yep. We just want to try and control the time of possession, because you feel like it is one of those games where the team that gets the ball last probably wins this game.
Time of possession's been an issue for the Stampeders on the season. They are 7th in that department, but when they have won the time of possession battle, they are 7-0. But it's a day where Joffrey Reynolds has been chewing up the clock, and as Matt Dunnigan discussed, he has been a key asset. A couple of touchdowns for him, a couple of touchdowns for Chris Zarka. And in that first half, the Stamps had the football for 17.5 minutes.
Well, I think that's likely what Saskatchewan coaching staff discussed at halftime with their defense, is to try and control Joffrey Reynolds. Got to be better on first down, better against the run.
Punch downfield by Kanji. Feels like the wind might be kicking up a little bit behind the Stampeders in this third quarter as Demetrius Summers brings it out to the 35-yard line. Both quarterbacks putting up pretty good numbers in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, they did. Darian Durant got a lot of that yardage late in the first half, but good completion percentages for both quarterbacks. They haven't thrown the touchdown pass yet. Henry Burris hasn't had to with his tailback in Joffrey Reynolds. Chris Zarka has got a touchdown for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but no mistakes either. No interceptions for either quarterback.
A couple of 2-and-outs to end the first half for Calgary. Play action fake, and Burris almost dropped the football. He, in turn, is dropped. And now they're going to call it an incomplete pass.
Well, this takes the 10th sack of the year off the boards for John Chick. I think he knocks it out of his hand. It's just a matter of whether or not Henry Burris was in the throwing motion going forward.
Wow, that doesn't look like a forward motion throw at all.
No, not at all. That looked like it was a fumble that was knocked straight out of his hand when his hand was in the air. He does pick it up. It really should be registered as a sack for John Chick.
I was watching the Rough Rider bench wondering how you don't challenge that, and now they do.
Well, plus the lost yardage. And it just didn't look to me at all like that arm was going forward from Henry Burris. He was holding it, trying to avoid contact from John Chick. Ball was in his right hand, and I think Chick just knocked it straight out of there.
Saskatchewan is challenging the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass.
John Chick with 7 quarterback sacks in the last 8 games. See if a different angle shows. Just bounded out of his hand. And it was an alert play by Burris to get back on the football.
But there is lost yardage involved in this challenge. Because if it's ruled that Burris fumbled it and recovered his own fumble, then John Chick gets the sack. But most importantly for the Riders and their fans is that there's difference in yardage here where they place the ball.
7 or 8 yards back. And a second.
John Chick broke out of a little bit of a sack slump last week versus Toronto when he registered his 9th. He went 4 games without one, and then finally got back on the board, but has still been grading out very, very well. What do you do against?
After review, Saskatchewan's challenge has been upheld. It was a fumble. It will be second down at the 28-yard line.
And there's the 10th.
So they'll mark it back 7 yards. And again, Miller likes his challenge, and not much doubt about it. 10th sack of the year for John Chick. Now 1 off the league lead of Ricky Foley.
What do? You double team John Chick. You got Stevie Baggs on the other side.
Go with the 3-man front here. Passing situation. Now they blitz off the edge, and Burris in trouble. Eddie Davis. No, he got rid of it. Joffrey Reynolds has the ball. And Reynolds close to a first down. Late flags. A couple of penalty markers on the play, but how did Henry Burris survive the Davis hit and get that ball away?
First of all, Joffrey Reynolds is the guy that was set up to block Eddie Davis on that play. He does block him initially, but Davis kept fighting to Burris, and then somehow just before he goes down, he gets it back to Reynolds.
One of the markers is rough play Calgary. Let's see if it's the only penalty on the play.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness after the play. Number 82, Calgary. 15-yard penalty, third down.
Nick Lewis must have been cruising.
Well, let's take a look at the play here. This is going to change field position, but let's take a look at the play. Joffrey Reynolds is got the guy who's got to pick up Eddie Davis at the bottom of your screen. Eddie Davis, number 29, the bottom corner. Here comes off the blitz. Now he picks him up initially right here. There's the block. One little block here, but watch the tenacity by Eddie Davis. He just kind of pushed him down. Now gets up. Burris is in trouble here. Sees Reynolds, who had just missed him, and had a chance, but that penalty puts him back and changes field position.
Burke Dales launches. Back penalty. Inside his 15. What a kick by Dales. Armstead breaks the tackle. And now another flag. 65-yard punt. 9 on the return and a marker on the play.
Here's the Nick Lewis penalty, and this changes field position. A poor decision by Nick Lewis. Joffrey Reynolds down. He hits Sean Lucas. Here comes the Claremont tripping penalty as he goes by, and that was really incidental and questionable. Because it looked like he was trying to block him, and their feet just got tangled.
That's when I heard tripping, you wonder about a call like that, but hard to blame Claremont for that call. They have to start inside their 10-yard line. Durant pulls it down and takes off. There is a penalty as Darian Durant is run out by Malik Jackson. Would have had a first down, but Stamps defense is indicating this is going against Saskatchewan. But the Stamps defense was maybe wishful thinking.
Yeah. Well, it was a good challenge to go back to that challenge by Ken Miller and get the sack.
Illegal contact on the receiver. Calgary, number 27. Penalty is declined. First down.
Brandon Browner.
They'll take the play there, but good challenge, because if you go back and if everything transpires the same way without the challenge, then the Calgary Stampeders still have the football. Nick Lewis's penalty was after, it would have been after first down yardage was gained. So good challenge, gets the ball back to his offense.
12-yard run for Durant stands. First and 10. Wes Cates up to the 30. And Cates close to 9.
Yeah, you heard the panel at halftime talk about the importance of balance in the offense and how Calgary has had it. And Darian Durant has had it when he runs, but not necessarily when getting Wes Cates involved. Maybe they talked about that as halftime as well, and they're trying to get him more involved in this second half.
Just 2 carries for Wes Cates so far. Chris Best has checked in as a tight end in this formation. And wanted to make sure he is eligible in this alignment on second and short. Again, Giles off the right side with a marker down.
Last time these two teams played, Chris, remember Stephen Giles played a whole quarter in that game.
Offside. Calgary, number 95. A 5-yard penalty. First down.
Devon Claybrook's offside. In fact, he really helped turn the game around. In some respects, he had a 14-play, 74-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah.
And Ken Miller had planned to insert him just to give Durant a look on the sidelines, and Durant came in the second half and finished the game with that dramatic touchdown to Chris Getzlaff.
Giles was into a real strong wind at the time, too, for his quarter, so he did a real good job in that game.
And it was interesting to hear Ken Miller mention a couple of weeks ago against BC when Durant and the offense were struggling, he thought in hindsight maybe he should have inserted Stephen Giles for a series or 2. Durant rolling again. Charleston Hughes caught him and brings him down at the 40. 4 yards for Darian Durant on that run, tracked down by the mobile Charleston Hughes.
Yeah, you know, I think that Ken Miller has real confidence in Stephen Giles, and he's said many times that he believes that both Darian Durant and Giles will be quarterbacks that we'll be talking about for a long time in the CFL over the next few years. But Darian Durant is clearly taking the reins of this offense and is the starter.
Bunch formation to the wide side on second down. Durant running out of time and dropped back at the 25-yard line. Jim Davis and Tay George meet at the quarterback.
Well, Mike Labinjo is going to help the cause. He's right in the middle of your screen right here, and Labinjo is going to take up and eat up some blocking at the line of scrimmage. So he steps in there, takes up Gene Mikowski for sure at one side. Now it leaves one-on-ones across the board, and you can see Jim Davis works against Jeremy O'Day and wins that battle.
Raji to kick into the breeze, and it's Marcus Howell at his 40 with a decent return across the 50, and then gets crunched. Kit Wada Jones.
Oh boy.
With a huge hit, and Marcus Howell remains down. That's the hit of the afternoon, isn't it? Kidwana Jones, Marcus Howell was down for a time. Says a lot about the guy. He could have run out of bounds there, but to get an extra yard or 2, he got a headache as well.
And there's a reason you can only play football once a week. That's the reason. That was a huge hit.
Great field position for Henry Burris and the Stampeders. Their own 53-yard line. A lot of time. And a wide open receiver, and he overthrows him by 5 yards. Robbie Bryant was loose.
Yeah, interesting. You know, this is what we talked about at the beginning of the game, was that John Hufnagel broke down some film of Henry Burris. He's the outside receiver right here as he's going down the seam, excuse me, the middle receiver, as he goes straight down the seam. And Hufnagel said when he looked at the tape, he said, look, Robbie Bryant's got some speed. We can go deep to him. This could be a big play guy for us. But you got to just let it go. Don't aim it. Don't be short, because when you're short, you bring the defender into play. If you throw it too far, it's not a big deal. You let him run underneath it, or it's incomplete. But he threw it way too far on that one.
Yeah, he let it rip. Didn't look like Bryant broke stride. 2nd and 10. Here comes the blitz over the middle, and it's a knockdown for Sean Lucas. Back in the lineup after missing a game with an ankle. And it's a quick 2-and-out for that Rough Rider defense.
A play designed here to get Nick Lewis, who's often running against linebackers, just down the field quickly to that first down marker. He turns it up, and the ball just a little bit behind Lucas. A chance to get in there and get that knockdown.
And that Rough Rider defense has slowed Calgary's momentum. Armstead back inside his 5. Trying to look for a crease. Slides away from Caliste. Good return up to close to the 20 after a 52-yard boot. Couple of injuries to report. Let's check in with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Both teams will be missing receivers on both sides. Teo Johnson for the Stamps injured his right ankle during covering a punt return. He is finished for the game. And for the Riders, it is Jerron Walker, also with an ankle injury. He's still in the locker room, and it's finished for the rest of the night.
Yeah, that means that Jason Claremont gets more playing time for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And it forces the Calgary Stampeders on the other side, when they get the ball, to maybe play more spread offense, because Teo Johnson played that fullback tight end spot.
Rough Riders start at their 19. Wes Cates. 3rd carry, and Cates to the 24 has 4 to 5.
And just more juggling for the Saskatchewan offense. They have to deal without the services of Weston Dressler in this game, and likely the rest of the season. And now have to go without Jerron Walker. It could be the all-Canadian receiving corps.
Yeah, Johnny Quinn is the only import there right now. Haven't seen Armstead in this offense a whole lot, if at all, today. 2nd down, here comes the pressure. And across the middle, the catch is made by Zarka. And that is short of the 1st down. The punt team has to come on for Saskatchewan.
This may limit Darian Durant a little bit, Chris, in that Jerron Walker is a real deep threat for him. Can get down the field in a hurry. He still has Andy Fantus who can do that. Jason Claremont more of a possession receiver. And remember, he did hit Chris Getzlaff when these two teams played on a deep one that was pretty important play.
How about Marcus Howell?
Yeah.
Back awaiting after that hellacious hit on the sidelines. They tell us he had the wind knocked out of him. Here's Howell at his own 40. And he's taken right down there by James Patrick. Henry Burris will lead out the offense, and according to his star receiver, Burris has taken too much of the heat for the offense's woes.
It really makes us upset because we see Hank and we're with him all the time, and we know it's not all him. A lot of times it's us too. You know, if you really think about the offense and what we've produced, over the past couple of games, we've had probably about 13 or 14 drops that's hit off our chest, you know? So drops and penalties has been killing us, and it hasn't been all him, and we really hate it that all the focus goes to him.
Focus is going to be back on this offense because they have started to sputter here since late in the 2nd quarter. Joffrey Reynolds has been the most effective component of the Calgary offense for most of the day.
Yeah, I think Burris, you know, when you look at his completion percentage back up over 60, that had dropped drastically over the last 4 games. He's only had 130 yards passing, so they haven't, like Matt Dunnigan said at halftime, they haven't really pressed the ball deep. Joffrey Reynolds was a bigger factor in the first half than he's been in this third quarter, but Burris is getting back on track, and he still had a couple of Brett Ralph drops.
54 yards on the opening drive from Henry Burris in the air. Can't find anybody here. Here comes the pressure, and Burris gets away. And now drops it off. Reynolds with some room to roam. Down to the 35. Henry Burris does some dancing, and then finally gives it to Reynolds.
And Ben Archibald does some blocking. First of all, Henry Burris, I mentioned it looked like his game is back, and this is his game. The ability to extend the play by moving around in the pocket, buying himself some time. He picks up a hellacious block that are going to show you again in a minute, and then with his eyes downfield, he drops off to Joffrey Reynolds for a big play. Watch Ben Archibald right there on Stevie Baggs to get his quarterback out and around the edge.
32-yard play, and now Summers down to the 31, has close to 4.
You know, when we talk about that offensive line, Demetrius Sumpas is a guy that has drawn a lot of attention, and in just his second year, of course, the veteran Jeff Pilon. When I asked John Huffnagel about his offensive line, he tells me Ben Archibald is grading out #1 across that group, game in, game out. That was strictly hustle, not giving up on the play, not giving up on his quarterback. That's the block of the game right now.
Yeah, Rob Lazio with a pretty good one on that same play. Down to 6 minutes left, third quarter. Haven't had any second half scoring yet. Here's a pass to Lewis, and Nick Lewis still going. Up 2 tackles and has a first down as Eddie Davis finally brings him down. 17 for Nick Lewis.
Nick Lewis is starting to break out a little bit. Just 100-yard game for Lewis. In the 2009 season, we talked about his problems down, or not problems, but his challenges in the end zone, in the red zone area, where he hasn't had that first touchdown. Not necessarily his fault.
Had just 10 catches in the last 4 games, 5 today for 70, and it's a first down for the Stamps. Burris rolling. Stevie Baggs tracking him, and he runs out of real estate. Tad Carnegie helps him out.
Well, you saw what Henry Burris did on that play to Joffrey Reynolds. And Stevie Baggs, who took the block from Ben Archibald there, he's now tracking down Henry Burris on this play one-on-one, and he has to be patient with him because he knows how well Burris can move, how quickly he can run. He's right off the corner, and he is going to have to be patient. If he tries to lunge and get selfish and come up and try and get a tackle or a sack, he could get in big trouble. He just is patient and flushes him to the sideline.
Got 2, 2nd and 8, no touchdown passes for Burris in October. A pump, and ball's down, ball's loose, and the Stampeders get back on it. Ben Archibald saves it, and there's Stevie Baggs getting to Henry Burris.
And that little sign he explained to me yesterday was saying that he is going to remain humble and appreciate his opportunity in the Saskatchewan Roughrider defense. That's why he does that. He comes off, he's patient. Joffrey Reynolds missed the chip block there on the outside, and this is him with, well, a sack. It's a forced fumble, so and that's I'm remaining humble and appreciate my opportunity.
So Sandro DeAngelis has to come on to attempt a 31-yarder. He puts it through, and it's Calgary by 5. For every sack in our game, Purelator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purelator, where business is going. A couple sacks for the Roughriders and 1 for Calgary so far.
Yeah, and they had to go to a review to get one of those Roughriders sacks for John Chick. Stevie Baggs, an important series there, especially that last play to get to Henry Burris and cause that fumble.
DeAngelis to Armstead from his 4. Lane Carpenter down in a hurry. of the big plays for the Roughriders today.
Well, they had an answer. Jermaine Franklin was talking with Ken Miller at halftime there, talking about every time Calgary went down and scored, did something positive offensively. Darian Durant found the answer, and it was Canadian receivers coming up with big plays. Andy Fantus there. You saw Jason Claremont the play before.
No points for the Roughriders here in the second half. Stu Ford is back in the offense. And Durant on a roll. Might take off. No, as Andy Fantus again, and looked like a face mask there at the end of the play. It's a first down for Fantus. Pickup of 12 and no flag.
That hurt him because it looked like it was a face mask, or at least over the helmet, that really wrenched him back. Fantus just slips to the right of your screen. Malik Jackson right there across the top of his helmet.
And Fantus has his first 100-yard game of the season. 6 catch, 105 yards. Here's Ford. Stu Ford, more positive yards, and another first down. I'll tell you what, he is the super sub as far as running backs go, isn't he?
Well, he is, and this all-Canadian offensive lineup is producing. You saw Andy Fantus with a nice catch there, and then kind of Thunder product. Stu Ford comes up with a nice run here in the backfield, and that, you know, in that shotgun formation. And what's luxury for Paul LaPolice is that he doesn't have to change the game plan at all when they substitute for Stu Ford.
13-yard run. Cates comes back in with Ford, who takes the ball again and bounces again across the 50. And 4 more for Stu Ford.
When you get production out of a Canadian and tailback as well, it gives you an option, because now you don't have to take an American off. With the designated import rule, the Canadian Football League, if you had another tailback that was an American or an import coming in for Wes Cates, then Cates would always have to come out, or an American receiver would have to come out to make that substitution. But they don't have to do that in Saskatchewan. They could both play.
They had a 2-back offense the last play, just one, and it's Ford again on 2nd and 6. Quick hitter, Fantus. Cut down there by John Eubanks. Fantus arguing the spot, which looks like it's going to be at least a yard short.
Eubanks goes low here on Andy Fantus, who's coming from right to left, across the formation, out of the backfield. Again, it's so important on this throw to get it to your receiver quickly so that he can turn and brace for impact. If that's a split second later, that shot really hurts Fantus, but he saw it in time, and we'll be close.
Another 3rd down, 3rd and a full yard. So Durant to the sidelines. Giles is out. They've converted a couple of these so far. Big boys stack up again. Giles straight ahead.
This will be closer.
Yeah, much closer. The other two were... Yeah, Tim Johnson came out with the football. That does not appear to be the issue, however.
The other two, Stephen Giles went off tackle. He did that Adrian McPherson type of quarterback sneak in Montreal, where he takes the ball and goes outside and goes off the tackles. That time he went right up the middle.
It's going to be close.
I'm going to take a look at it. And you mentioned Tim Johnson had the ball at the end. Let's see if Giles lost the handle here at some point. And the ball's loose there.
And it's a turnover, but a turnover on downs. The ball was loose.
And Tim Johnson caught that in the air. So Ken Miller is talking about challenging the spot on the play.
That may not be a good idea, because...
Well, they can see, if they see something other than what is challenged, they can rule on that as well. And I think Tim Johnson caught this fumble in the air, unless there was some sort of whistle.
Would be the first turnover of the game.
Saskatchewan is challenging the spot on a 3rd down.
They're going to challenge the spot. And I don't think that Giles ever really got full control from the center. He looked like he was juggling that a little bit, and we did see that ball come loose in this first replay. And here's another look at that picture. Here it is. And right there, the ball has come loose and is free from Stephen Giles with a lot of movement up front still happening. And Tim Johnson ended up coming up with that ball. Now, they are actually reviewing the spot. But if they see that there's a fumble, they could rule on that. You can see that Johnson has the ball in his hands there. And I don't know, even if you think that Giles had possession, I don't know if you could rule the change, and he never had
really
control.
had it.
He never had it. That was out of there.
Didn't look like any surge forward for a full yard, and certainly not enough to overturn. And they were going to work on that snap at the sidelines. That's the one danger in bringing in the other guy, although it hasn't been a problem for the Roughriders very often this season.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. First down, Calgary. Saskatchewan is charged a second half timeout.
Well, there was not enough evidence to overturn the call as far as just forward progress by Stephen Giles anyway, so there's no really need to mention the fumble, but either way, that was Calgary's ball.
Yeah, turnover one way or the other, man. It is Stampeder football. Close to midfield. James Patrick showing safety blitz. Ball in the flat, and Robbie Bryant can't catch it. A drop with Donovan Alexander close.
Interesting little rotation there defensively as you mentioned, James Patrick came up from the safety spot and he blitzed from over here. But what they did is they rolled back Sean Lucas into the middle, so it really wasn't a completely full blitz. But I counted 4 now in this game, 2 of which by Brett Ralph would have been extending drives, and you can see running back coach Dave Dickinson going, that hurts a quarterback.
And Dave's playing with it on the sidelines. And now the quarterback of record looks at 2nd and 10. 5-receiver package. Now Reynolds out. And that pass is intercepted. Lance Fraser flag down. And Fraser dropped at the 51. Let's find out what that penalty flag's all about.
And that Burris is hot because I think he thinks it's illegal contact downfield. Lance Fraser's working on R.J. Franklin. There was some contact.
Pass interference, 87 Calgary. Penalty is declined. First down.
I was going to say, there was some contact made between the two in R.J. Franklin and Lance Fraser. And I wasn't sure when you look at it whether or not it was that guy or that guy that drew the penalty flag. But it's basically straight little down and across the middle curl route, little contact made there as he drags underneath. And I think they saw Franklin with a little push in the back or that his arms went there. But that's we call it best.
Not sure what they saw, but Fraser has his 2nd interception in as many weeks, 4 for the season. The Rob Bank gets drilled by Dwight Anderson. He got hung up there, and Anderson had a free shot.
That's a quick close. Darian Durant gets it out there in pretty good time. And that's Anderson tackling through the receiver, Rob Bagg.
Tough way to get 4 yards. 2nd and 6. Final play, 3rd quarter, barring a penalty. Over the middle, Cates the catch, and now he's going to be a yard short.
Close.
End up within about 5 yards from where the gamble was unsuccessful on the last series. They'll have some time to think about it as they switch ends, headed to the 4th quarter in Calgary. third quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
You know, this is just a flat-out great football game. You look at Calgary Stampeders, their numbers are down a little bit. You know, in the first half, Joffrey Reynolds was a big part of it, and why Henry Burris was having some success in getting back. He had just one carry in that third quarter, and pretty good numbers for Saskatchewan.
Time of possession is in Calgary's favor, yet Saskatchewan's generated more offense, which means they've had some bigger plays in the game. Haven't had a lot of big plays, though, in the second half.
Yeah, I think when you saw Dwight Anderson close on Rob Bagg there, you could see that the defense for Calgary and Saskatchewan, the same thing on their side of the defense, they're closing quickly. I think both these offenses need to push the ball down the field, take some shots deep, and try and loosen up that defense, both sides.
Well, he had a little extra time to think about it, and Saskatchewan's going to punt on third and almost 2. So they'll play the field position game, or will they? Because Kanji's drilled that into the back of the end zone, and it's going to be a single point and a 4-point Calgary lead at 23-19.
And that's an error, and you can, you know, Luka Kanji, you can cut him a little slack. I mean, he's got to do both jobs now, and he had just 27-yard average in his first game, but he wanted that out inside the 10 or right around the 10-yard line and get that field position. That point really doesn't help him.
Got a score from out of town. Simon Fraser, 21, UBC 0 at the half. You like that, don't you?
Yes, sir, and that series is tied 15-15-1 all time. This is the rubber match. SFU way out ahead.
Henry Burris toward Jermaine Copeland's been quiet for the most part today. And he gets swarmed at the 42. 7 for Copeland, who has gone over 1,000 on the day.
You know, sometimes it's easy to say these quarterbacks need to go deep with the ball. I mean, Henry Burris tried one to Romby Bryant, way overthrew him, and that's easy to say. But you have to have protection up front to be able to go deep, because it takes obviously longer. You want to try to run some double moves, so you have to have protection to do it.
2nd and 3. Joffrey Reynolds straight ahead. Ray Williams was there, but Reynolds enough momentum to get the first down.
But just one carry for Joffrey Reynolds in the first half. Calgary a lot more successful when they were going more to 21. It really freezes the defense when you put the ball anywhere near him, and that's why Burris can have that success on that read zone play where he puts it in his stomach, holds it there for a second, then pulls it or gives it to Joffrey Reynolds. If you're not going to him anymore, the defense doesn't respect that fake anymore.
26, 100-yard game for Joffrey Reynolds, 7th against the Roughriders. Burris running out of time, and now a throwback. And Nick Lewis breaks the tackle, and Lewis up to the 52. It's a couple of times today that Henry Burris has made something when it looked like he was in trouble.
Yeah, big trouble. Joffrey Reynolds is gonna help out here. He's in the backfield, and he's gonna help out by a little chip block on John Chick to get things started as he comes out one way and just helps on number 97 there. There's a chip block. That gives him some, but everyone's covered to that side. So then Burris has to go back and just outlet that to Lewis.
Another 2nd and 3. And this time, Joffrey Reynolds is taken down. Stevie Baggs with one of his biggest plays of the game.
Now, he didn't explain to me what that kick move was, but he was very animated yesterday on explaining his sack celebration, because apparently I've got it wrong in describing that he was fishing or something. He said absolutely not. He said when I make that big play, I've got a hole that it's about the sack, and this is just a tackle for a loss. I shouldn't say just, it's a big tackle for a loss. And that was a different celebration, that side kick.
He's got a few of them, but he's had a lot of reasons to celebrate this year. Big stop there by the Roughriders. Armstead let that one go over his head.
Comes Burke Dales.
Decides to pick it up because Burke Dales is in the vicinity. And Burke's had a good day. Another 47-yard punt for Dales. Thank you, David. Welcome back to McMahon here with just under 12 minutes to go. It's a 4-point Calgary lead. Ken Miller's offense We'll have to start deep again.
Over 40,000 in the house. First place on the line. Both teams 8-6. Doesn't get any better.
It's everything we hoped for today. And now Fantu's open and Durant misses him by a stride. Well, he had Andy Fantus open on a deep shot.
Had a nice conversation with Andy Fantus yesterday at the walkthrough, and he has just come to terms basically in a new contract with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Is wide open down the field, and mentioned to me, he says, you know, I feel real good in the offense. Darian Durant and I are really getting on the same page, but it's gonna get a lot better because we miss a couple every game.
Missed a chance there. 2nd and 10. Durant, Fantus had to go high to bring that down and stretches out. You can see where he had to get to. What kind of mark do they get?
Got a good spot.
Within inches, one way or the other.
Got a good spot, Chris. You know, he stretches at the end. First of all, there's a lot of receivers in the league that don't catch this pass because, well, they're not 6'4" with the reach of Andy Fantus right there to go up and get it.
Well, to reach up, and then he had to reach forward to try and get the first down, and he did. As the chains show, he just made it with that reach. So 8 catches now, and his biggest day of the season.
Well, Jock Climby talked about it before the game, the pregame show. Who was going to pick up the slack for Weston Dressler? He felt it'd be Andy Fantus. Bang on.
Not sure if that was a mix-up or not, but Darian Durant makes a play out of it, and Johnny Quinn has the catch and another first down across the 40.
This one just put low and outside so that only Johnny Quinn had a chance at it, and Darian Durant makes it look easy, but it wasn't. You take a look at this play, there was a mix-up because Durant was trying to run the play action to Wes Cates, who went the wrong direction. He went to the left, so the fake was really into air, but the pass was perfect.
18 for Quinn. As the Roughriders enhance field position, and Jason Claremont has another big catch across midfield to the Calgary 53.
This is the recognition of quarterback and receiver to see a defensive back playing off him. So Claremont takes a look at Keon Raymond, and he sees him high, and he just sits down right away. Darian Durant saw the same thing, moved the chains, nice little read and react there to just see the quick hot is available and hit Claremont.
His best game was 4 for 66 against Hamilton. Just 2 catches today, but the season high 79 yards, and now Wes Cates ahead and down to the 48-yard line. 5 for Wes Cates.
Darian Durant going toe-to-toe with Henry Burris. 75% his completion percentage right now. Next pass or two will be over the 300 mark. Yeah, he didn't throw an interception last week.
Has not had a 300-yard game in his last 6 starts. Big play here, 2nd and 6. Here comes the rush. He steps up, breaks the tackle, and lunges close to the first down.
He got it.
That's a clutch play. We've seen Burris escape a couple of times, and now Durant has an answer.
You know, the Calgary Stampeders were scrambling around a little bit to get lined up properly, but it looked like they were going to get away with it. Look at the confusion in the backfield here as you see Dwayne Carpenter running into his own player. He has to drop back deep. Darian Durant saw that and tried to attack that area. Was almost caught in the backfield, but he's got that great leg strength to fight off that first tackle.
Charleston Hughes couldn't bring him down. He's going to be short. Going to be short by a few cheek links, and Stephen Giles will come back in.
But you know what, Chris? There is the Canuck truck that's been pretty successful in short yardage. Stephen Giles stays on the sideline here.
He does.
Chris Zarka comes in.
Okay, inches to go. You give it to the fullback, or you just have the quarterback?
I don't, but the option is there now, and the defense has to think about it.
Don't usually see this, but they had trouble the last snap.
They're going
It is the Canuck truck, and he'll have it. A couple of touchdowns for Chris Zarka on the day, and a critical first down here as the clock is running down to 8.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Interesting decision there by Ken Miller to go with, you know, the hot hand. I mean, Stephen Giles was stopped on the last one, had problems with the exchange at center. So, you know, Chris Sarker, every time we asked him in short yardage, including down the goal line to get a few, he has. Let's go with him, and it works again.
7th play of the drive. On a roll, inside, bangs, that's straight out again. That bag will step out close to another first down.
And why do you need to continue to go to your running back? Wes Cates more involved in the second half, running the football so that this type of play works, because watch how it influences Charleston Hughes, the defensive end for the Calgary Stampeders, on the fake. If you don't go to him, he doesn't buy it like that. He goes all the way down. Durant, lots of time to drop it off to Bag.
3rd catch of the game for Rob Bag. First down, Roughriders. Here comes the blitz, quick hitter, and another completion to the 25-yard line, and Claremont has another grab.
And that's the Claremont catch.
Yep.
That's the trademark Claremont catch. Over the middle, possession receiver, tough hard yards. Hey, we know what he's not now. He used to be able to separate. He used to be able to go deep. I don't think there's anyone, including, would say that that's his game, but he can be a possession receiver. He'll take those hits and he'll hang on.
2nd and 4. Can the Roughriders extend this drive? Pressure, and it's a completion. And Andy Fantu's the catch. Don't think that's going to be enough for a first down.
But how close are they? Because when Ken Miller's been a yard or less, he's gone for it. He's going to send the field goal team on here.
Looked like about 1.5 yards, and he wasn't going to wait for a measurement. May not have got one, being over 1 yard away. 4-point game, and they will go for 3 here with lots of time to go, under 7 remaining. And this from 29 yards out.
And this a sound decision.
And Kanji makes no mistake. Everything you could have wanted, a 1-point game with 6:37 left. Now you can shop for top quality TSN gear, including the new book, TSN 25 Years, a look back at the world of sports for the last quarter century. Visit tsnshop.ca today and get your gear. Roughriders have won 3 of the last 5 visits to McMahon, 6 of the last 10. Down by 1 here. Demetrius Summers on the kick return, and he's pulled down at the 31-yard line. Freeman on the tackle. Calgary football when we come back. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939.
Boy, this is what you love about the game. When you get first place on the line, 2 well-coached, intense football teams going at it. And this is where it's time to man up.
Roughriders have not led in this game, but trailed by a single point in Calgary. As the football starting at their 31, the zone read fake to Joffrey Reynolds, and Jermaine Copeland with a catch. Eased out by James Patrick. It's a first down for the Stamps at their own 49-yard line.
Boy, Joffrey Reynolds through most of this fake really thought he was getting the football here, but it's up to the quarterback, and he pulls it late there, and that's enough to influence Keith Shologan, get him down inside. Now, Copeland is the 3rd option on this because he had a shorter one, and he's open in behind.
18 for Copeland. Now Reynolds has the football off the right side, slicing into the secondary, and Patrick just holding on to make sure he didn't get any further, but that's a big first down run for Joffrey Reynolds.
That's what I mean about having to now man up. Important drive for the Calgary offense, try and eat up as much of the clock as they can and also finish with points. That's where Joffrey Reynolds comes in. And how will Ray Williams now respond? Getting the start, the middle linebacker for Mike McCullough. Will he step it up? Stevie Baggs versus Ben Archibald.
Marcus Adams shaken up on the play. He is getting attention on the field.
This is where you got to find out how you're going to respond, and this is with the game on the line. Every single player wants to be out there, and right now in their mind they're saying, I want you to run the ball in my area. And that's what Ray Williams is saying, and Joffrey Reynolds is going, I have been running the ball. In fact, I've been running the ball pretty well.
First half, 12 runs, 96 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. Hasn't been as busy in the second half, though.
Well, they went away from him in the third quarter, just the one carry in the third, have come back to him now in the fourth, and they have to.
10 touchdowns on the year. Another one of those MOP candidates, Joffrey Reynolds. First and 10, Calgary. Time for Burris, and he's got Copeland again. Big drive, so you go to your big play guys.
Jermaine Copeland has got to fight off the sun here. He just works underneath Brett Ralph, sits on the sideline with Lance Frazier closing, and he looked like he had to fight off the sun to try and come up with that. That was an issue last week for the Stampeders.
Second and less than a yard. What do they do here? Just plunge ahead, and Burris will get a fresh set of downs. And before they snap the ball for the next play, there'll be less than 5 minutes left.
Interesting situation for Calgary, because they're not in a panic situation in that a field goal is pretty good for them. I mean, it's a 1-point game. Field goal makes it a 4-point game, which puts now the Saskatchewan under the pressure of the major, not just the field goal to tie it. What Henry Burris wants to avoid down here is the mistake, the interception, or the turnover, but he can't get too conservative at the same time.
First and 10 from the 36, in field goal range now. And there's Robbie Bryant trying to turn the corner, and bumped up by Donovan Alexander at the 23-yard line.
And that's why Calgary is working the sidelines, working the out. We saw the out to Jermaine Copeland. Now we see the out to the wide side of the field. Ball coming right at you in your living room to Robbie Bryant as he turns the corner. Those are high percentage throws that go to the sideline, so if you leave them out there too far, they just go incomplete and aren't turned over. Know the importance of a field goal here is just as important right now than as a major.
Best looking drive since maybe the first possession of the game for Calgary. Fake to Reynolds. Nick Lewis to the 5. Still looking for that first touchdown, and he thought he might have had it there.
He's knocking on the door a couple of times now. He's got the ball about that part of the field, and he can see the end zone. He's getting closer, and he's brought down at the 5. They'll like to use this play action, and that draws John Chick way down inside to Joffrey Reynolds, and no linebacker reacted outside. That's not John Chick's fault. He's crashing down to Reynolds. He needs a linebacker outside to help on that, and didn't get it.
First and goal, just inside the 5. Joffrey Reynolds, touchdown! Third of the game, 11th of the year. And a statement drive by the Stamps.
And they went back to their money player, Joffrey Reynolds, in the drive. And what I love about this run from Joffrey Reynolds is how Reynolds is trying to bounce outside, but he wants to get his pad level down and get that angle nice and low, so any contact coming from inside out, he can bounce off, and he basically walks in.
Well, that's about as big a celebration as you ever see from 21.
All the time. I didn't want 31 to shoot.
They're going to take a
I knew Cote was doubling over.
time count as they didn't have the proper alignment out on the convert team.
Well, the fake to Joffrey Reynolds on the Nick Lewis play to set it up was as important as the touchdown run.
8 plays, 79 yards, just over 3 minutes. And from a little further back, DeAngelis makes it an 8-point game. So the Roughriders need a touchdown and a 2-point convert with 3:06 to go. The big boys all had to make plays there. Reynolds, Lewis, Copeland, and Bryant.
And I'm going to throw in a couple more names. How about Ben Archibald? How about Tim O'Neill right here? As Tim O'Neill and Ben Archibald are going to load up on John Chick, they're going to step out and then turn and just create a wall right here. That allows him to get outside Reynolds, and then he gets that low pad level. As soon as he sees the corner, he lowers that right shoulder so that any contact from anyone in the secondary is not going to make the difference.
9 rushing touchdowns on the season now.
And there's your nominee
Yes.
in 2009 of the Calgary Stampeders for outstanding player, in my mind. And I know there's still some football to be played down the stretch. Important games for every team in the West. But Joffrey Reynolds has been their best player.
League-leading rusher, league-leading 7th 100-yard game. Second in as many starts this year against the Roughriders. Armstead looking for another big return. Reverses field and gets outside. And brought down by Sandro DeAngelis at the 3-minute warning, a 26-yard return for Armstead. Our game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Now, it looks like Henry Burris is back. A pretty good game for Henry Burris at 245. Joffrey Reynolds has been the story, though, for the Calgary Stampeders offensively. Darian Durant's gone toe-to-toe with them. And you knew that Andy Fantuz would become that much more important with Weston Dressler out.
Roughriders within a touchdown and a 2-point convert. Durant checked down to Rob Bag, and he gets punished again. Well, remember the last time they met at McMahon in the late stages.
It came down to the wire again, and Darian Durant found Chris Getzlaff for the game-winning touchdown throw. And they are going to need not just that type of play, but also another one on a 2-point convert to draw even here this afternoon.
They have scored 2-point converts in 2 of their last 3 games. In BC and Edmonton. Will they get a chance to try one here? Second down underneath. Claremont, a sure-handed catch. And he spun forward close to a first down. His best day as a Rough Rider.
There's plenty of time left that Darian Durant doesn't have to start thinking about forcing it and get a big chunk. He can continue to work the offense like this and can continue to move the chains defensively. You got to think at a time like this, you always take maybe a little step back just so you don't give up a big play in one throw, which should open up things underneath a little bit more for Darian Durant. Oh boy. Just short again.
Ken Miller left Darian Durant in on the last short yardage situation. Looks like he will do it again, and in comes Chris Zarka.
I think you go quarterback sneak here. You know that Calgary will load up on Chris Zarka this time. Do they go to the well once more?
Behind Jeremy O'Day, it is Zarka, and it is a first down across midfield.
You know, the concern there on short yardage is that you're taking the ball off the line of scrimmage. That's why people say, you know, why not just quarterback, take it, go forward. But the upside is the defense isn't sure if Zarka's going to go left or Zarka's going to go right.
And O'Day and Best providing a decent hole off that left side. Here comes the rush. They screen to Cates. He spun away. Got a block. And is tracked down by Malik Jackson at the 46-yard line. Close to 8 for Wes Cates.
You got a little block there by Mark Parenteau out of the backfield in this screen. There's Wes Cates right there. He's going to slip out of the backfield. Design screen. Number 57 is going to fly over there too and get a little chip block. There's the open field miss by Tim Johnson.
Second and about 2 back. And this time a pitch. Cates gets to the edge and cuts it back. And Malik Jackson will haul him down. But at the 35-yard line, the Rough Rider offense is marching.
Use Zarka in short yardage. Use Chris Zarka in short yardage. And then, very important short yardage play, you fake it to Chris Zarka, who's in that exact same position. Paul Lapalisse. This is perfect play calling because they're going to fake it to Zarka here and go to Wes Cates coming out of the backfield. Make it all look the same, but play a different play.
9 for Cates. Here comes Wes Lysak, and Durant got away. He better throw it away, and does. Had to get rid of that football because Charleston Hughes was following up after the safety blitz from Wes Lysak disrupted things.
Wes Lysak, all momentum going forward and really ended up overrunning the play. He's going to come from here. There he is, number 31. And he is full speed to go to Durant, who kind of sidesteps him there, but the speed of Charleston Hughes bails out their safety.
Tim Johnson, the middle linebacker, has limped off, so both Carpenter and Malik Jackson in this defense for Calgary on 2nd and 10. No pressure. Over the middle, a catch is made. It'll be short of the first down.
Well, I don't know. They're close.
Rob Baggs got it. Let's see. Forward progress. It is a first down.
Yeah, they got him right up to that 25-yard line. He came right across the middle, Chris, right at that number. And if you're wondering if Rob Baggs could make the tough catch over the middle, he shows you that he can there. He hung on to that one, and he got pushed back, but the forward progress was right at the stick, right at the marker.
Huge first down, the 4th catch of the game for Baggs. Durant has Fantus! Touchdown!
Oh, baby. On the road, under pressure. Darian Durant comes through. Now they need another one.
Yep, they're one big play away from getting back to even with Calgary.
Missed on this same route earlier in the game. Darian Durant does not make the mistake this time. Money throw.
More late magic by the Rough Riders at McMahon. And what a day for Fantus. 10 catches, 149 yards. But they need 2 more points. Looking for the tie at McMahon. And they've got it! Rob Baggs!
The offensive coordination in this drive is tremendous for Paul Lapalisse. And I love the pre-snap motion here from the Saskatchewan offense as they've got all kinds of movement to the right side of the formation. Durant gets a wide-open Rob Baggs, who just has to seal the deal with the catch there, and this baby is all tied up. Andy Fantus, 4 receivers to the wide side of the field, and you can see the composure of Durant. He looks to the left, tries to freeze the defense, comes back to Baggs, wide open. Did you expect anything different?
I don't know if you could expect anything more. What a game.
There's 41 seconds.
Yes, there is.
Which is time for Henry Burris.
Is there any doubt about the Saskatchewan Roughriders quarterbacking? Look at those numbers. That a gutsy late drive, and yet his day's not done. 6 for 7. And he throws a touchdown pass and a 2-point convert to get Saskatchewan even at 30 apiece. Ganji kicks deep. And now Summers trying to provide some field position. And Demetrius Summers is tossed out at about the 32-yard line. 34 seconds for Henry Burris to answer in a great quarterbacking duel today at McMahon.
And the Saskatchewan Roughriders can't soften up too much on defense here. They can't now just back way up and not give up a big play. They've got to go and play defense. 34 seconds is 7, 8 plays. You can pick up 10, 12 yards on each one of those. The Calgary Stampeders are in field goal range in 34 seconds. So this Rider defense has to play their game.
Drill Freeman took a knee on the kick cover team. So that will allow the drama to build. Or Sandro DeAngelis, longest field goal of the year, 48. Career high 56. He'd be going into a bit of a breeze here.
And probably just over 30 yards of offense is what Henry Burris needs in just over 30 seconds to do it.
Doesn't look fazed by the prospects. So Freeman's off. And we're just about set.
Buckle up. Here we go.
One almost picked. Omar Morgan was there. 2nd and 10.
Looked like a bit of a communication error there that almost cost the Calgary Stampeders the ball game, because Copeland's going to run this out. He's done this before, but it looked like Burris thought he might sit down and get to the sideline. Copeland thought he was going to sit down there, and Morgan just missed the pick.
That would have been close to field goal range, Saskatchewan. But it's 2nd and 10. 4 receivers wide side. And Burris takes off. And he gets hit hard at the 40, and that'll be short of the first down.
Yeah, and you got to think that Huffnagel's got to punt the ball here. There's no way he can take a chance, because if he doesn't get it, the Saskatchewan Roughriders are in field goal range. I don't think he can kill the clock.
No timeout for the Riders, though, on the challenge that wasn't going to go their way. And so they'll be able to run this clock down, and that might be the game plan.
Yeah, but now you got to get Burris to back up a bunch, give up some ground, make sure all that time comes off the clock. Once he snaps, he's going to have about 4 or 5 seconds to kill. And then he could just throw a sky ball out of bounds, and this game goes to overtime.
They'll take it right down to about 3 seconds left, call their timeout. 4 seconds.
They've done this before. In fact, John Huffnagel practices this. He wants, in a game like this, he's going to go to overtime, not force, put the punt team out there and risk getting a punt blocked or a big return for a touchdown. So he gives it to his quarterback. He's going to kill the clock, step back. When it's at zeros, he'll just throw it out of bounds, and we head to overtime, knotted at 30.
Burris has to make sure that he drains the clock. And we go to our 2nd overtime game of the year. Spreading everybody out. It's like an offside. Flags down. Burris going to load it up and go deep. And that ball is batted down Again, it looked like the Stampeders were offside of the play, and that should do it for regulation time.
Well, you can't end the game on a penalty.
Offside, Calgary. That penalty is declined.
Unless you decline it, and then you can end the play.
So 60 minutes has not solved anything. 30 apiece. Headed to overtime. At McMahon. Second time we've gone to overtime this year. The Argos beat the Tiger Cats earlier, but this is for first place in the West.
Too many games. They'll start on the 35-yard line. The team that won the toss in this case was the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who chose to play defense first. And I like that decision. I think in overtime, that's what you do if you win the toss, because then you know what the offense for Calgary gets. If they get a field goal, you have to match the field goal to go to the next game, the next mini game.
And if they score a touchdown, you know you're playing three-down football till you get to the end zone.
Exactly.
The winner will be first with 9 wins in the West. And John Huffnagel knows that if it's a Saskatchewan win, they get the tiebreaker too. So a little heat on the home side. Burris with a pump. Look out! Stevie Baggs back at the 48. Now we'll see a sack dance. Or will we? He got drilled.
And is Henry Burris okay? Because he did get drilled. Stevie Baggs coming from the backside of the play. And when Henry Burris tried to escape out the back door, he got hit hard by Stevie Baggs, number 90, who kept coming. Ben Archibald has been a great matchup. They've been battling all game long, and when Burris turned around, he saw number 90.
Loss of 12. Baggs has a pair of sacks and a share of the league lead with 11.
Takes him out of field goal range, too.
Second and 22. In trouble again. Lost his footing, and he's down. Back across midfield, but hold on. They're going to call a hit on the quarterback on John Chick when he was down.
And John Chick can't believe it because he thought that Henry Burris was live. And I don't believe he led with his helmet. I don't think he did.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Number 97, Saskatchewan. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Well, let's take a look.
Yeah, we got to take, you'll take another look at it. John Chick comes off the top of your screen. Now, if Burris is touched there, he's down by contact. I don't think he was touched, so he's live and can get up and run again. And John Chick did not lead with his helmet. And I guess what the officials are saying is that he didn't have to hit him. He could have just touched him when he was down like that, but I don't know about that one.
But it is football, isn't it?
It is.
Wow. Dr. Reynolds on first down. That's the thing, the field position changes. A fresh set of downs when it was going to be third and about 40.
Yeah, no question, on a real close call. And I know they're trying to protect the quarterbacks, but Chick did not lead with his helmet, and Henry Burris could have got up again and ran. He was not down by contact.
He'd already got up once.
And that's why John Chick was continuing to play football. They were way out of field goal range, which means Calgary would not have got a point on their try.
Fake for Reynolds, into the corner, and incomplete. Donovan Alexander had locked on to the intended target, Robbie Bryant.
Of course, Henry Burris in field goal range now. This is when Jermaine Copeland, for the first 12 weeks of the season, was money down in this end of the field. 12 receiving touchdowns for Copeland. Can he shake coverage now?
Second and 10 from the 22. Nick Lewis. First down, Calgary. 15 for Lewis.
They double team Copeland to the short side of the field and put Sean Lucas in coverage in really what was too deep and man underneath. What that means is that you've got deep coverage, and on the other side, Copeland is covered by the veteran Davis and Eddie Davis underneath with Tad Cornegay over the top. So they go to Lewis to move the chains.
First and goal from the 6. Lewis hasn't scored a touchdown, but he's got them in touchdown range a few times. And now it's a touchdown for Rob Cote. The Cochran kid has Calgary in the end zone.
What a change, what a turn of events on a very questionable call on the quarterback on John Chick. Calgary Stampeders get to the end zone. There's Cote there, same zone read play that you've seen so many times from this Calgary offense to get Burris outside, play action to Joffrey Reynolds, Cote with a touchdown.
Rob Cote with his first touchdown of the year. DeAngelis the extra point. And so the Roughriders need a major score, but what a game-changing penalty. What looked like back-to-back quarterback sacks back across midfield. Turns into a first down and eventually a Calgary overtime touchdown.
Well, you know that will be talked about no matter how this game ends up. But it puts tremendous pressure now on the offense for Saskatchewan and Darian Durant. They'll have to play 3-down football because they have to match to continue this thing on with the major.
The Roughriders have been coming back all day. Can they do it again? Durant had to get that one away quickly. And the defense is punished. But Dwight Anderson's laid a licking on Saskatchewan receivers today.
Well, he has sat outside there at that corner, and he's played these crossing, these little flat routes. He's played them quickly. He's come up quickly. You almost wonder if you couldn't sneak behind him if he's coming up that aggressively from his deep outside area. I think there was an open receiver in Quinn right behind him. But he has been aggressive coming up on those short routes.
Bedlam at Big Man, 2nd and 10. Pressure. Durant downfield, and Getzlaff can't bring it down. It'll be 3rd down.
And Dwight Anderson with a hit on that one again. This one a little deeper down the field, and a tough catch for Chris Getzlaff to have to climb the ladder, but it was once again Dwight Anderson breaking downhill in a hurry. And cutting the legs out from underneath Getzlaff. See Anderson playing off, but watch how quickly he closes.
What a day he's had on the corner. Down to the last play, perhaps. Roughriders need a first down. More pressure. There's Johnny Quinn. He's got the first down. Inside the 20, and the Roughriders still have life.
And he took advantage of the aggressive play from Dwight Anderson outside on the corner. He's made so many of them. He's come up so quickly that this time Johnny Quinn just kind of settled his feet, and he braced himself for that impact from Dwight Anderson, who blew right by him. Pressure on Durant, who finds his receiver outside, and watch the aggressive play by Anderson, and this time he misses.
Been a lot of Calgary pressure in this overtime. Can the Roughriders take advantage of that? From Bag. And Bag down to the 12-yard line.
Well, what Saskatchewan and both these teams, for that matter, have to keep in mind is that now the time is irrelevant. You've got your 20-second huddle, you can call your plays, entire offense is in the book, so he's going to that wristband and Darian Durant. He's seen a lot of pressure, though, Chris, you're right. Calgary sent pressure. They like quarterback draw. They have in the past down in this area.
2nd and 5. Again, bagged across the middle, right back to the line of scrimmage. And it'll be 3rd and about 5.
You know, when you're in situations like this, and Saskatchewan's been in so many, all the players in that huddle are looking at the eyes of the quarterback. They want to see the confidence in his eyes. The offensive coordinator's got the play out there for him.
Stampeders want a timeout. And now a marker is thrown. And is this against Calgary? If it is, it's a 1st down.
Delay a game. Calgary, number 7. Half the distance to the goal. 1st down.
All I can think of is calling a timeout when none are available because the Calgary bench was trying to call a timeout.
Well, they were having some problems with personnel groupings to get the right defensive personnel on the field, and Huffnagel's reaction there, because it gives Durant a whole new set of downs.
So it is 1st down and goal from the 6. Here's Chris Getzlaff. Getzlaff to the goal line. Touchdown. And pending a Kanji convert, the Roughriders still have life.
This has been unreal. I mean, every single time Calgary has grabbed momentum in this game from the very first quarter, the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
The previous play is under review.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll take a look to see if Getzlaff did get in. He looks a little banged up after it. But they found an answer. Let's see if he did cross the plane.
Now they'll be reviewing this in Toronto. It looks like it may be 2nd and goal from the 1.
Let's take a look. Contact made there. That hand's okay as long as the elbow would make him down by contact. His foot crossing the plane doesn't matter. The ball in his hand has to cross the plane before the elbow touches. I think it will be on the 1, Chris. I think you're right. The hand can touch, and if the ball crosses the plane while the hand's down, it's a touchdown. If the elbow or any other part of the body other than the hands or the feet touch, then it's down by contact.
After review, the player was down by contact prior to scoring a touchdown. The ball will be placed at the 1-yard line.
So it'll be 2nd down and goal at the 1.
And in short yardage, when Saskatchewan's had success here, it's been the Canuck truck. And here he comes.
Well, they've been stopped once today on a 3rd down gamble. It is 2nd down, but we have seen some goal line stands this year in the CFL. So it's not tied up yet. And since the unsuccessful 3rd down gamble, it's been Darian Durant in these short yardage situations, not Stephen Giles.
This is where you're looking for your middle linebacker to step up.
Zarka's got it. 3rd touchdown of the game for Chris Zarka. That'll get him a few votes in Regina as he runs for counselor.
You know, and this is the upside. I mentioned you don't know as a defender what side the fullback's going to go. I mean, you could say that about the quarterback, but he's just pushing behind the center anyway.
He's not 235 pounds.
That's right, and doesn't have downfield momentum. And the middle linebacker's got to commit one way or the other there before he even knows. So Zarka walks in there.
Kanji still needs to put this through. And it's blocked! It's blocked! There is a marker. Penalty flag on the play. Brandon Browner's going to run the distance. But what's the call? That's the issue.
What is the penalty flag?
It's going against Calgary.
Oh boy, were they offside on the block?
And now we have seen everything today. Is it a call on the pyramid?
Saw the reaction from John Hufnagel, who turned almost right to the camera and said, no. Let's see, there's a long conference going on here. If it was offside, you have to make sure that the defender was not drawn offside by offensive movement. And there seems to be, offside is pretty straightforward. You either were or you weren't, and whether or not you were drawn.
Tate George, the man who got a hand on the convert.
Procedure on a defense, pyramiding. Using another player to elevate himself. It's a 5-yard penalty, half the distance to the goal, convert be reattempted.
A player cannot use a teammate to try and get himself up in the air. You cannot, right there in the middle of your screen, use your teammate to pyramid yourself, to jump up on the shoulder pads or the back of your teammate to get up and high over the top, and that's what Tate George did.
Still got to get it through. It does. And now the province of Saskatchewan can breathe in, and we'll go another round.
And I believe at this point they'll change ends, and then Saskatchewan will take the ball first. So then now Calgary will know what they have to match.
And if they don't decide the issue in the next round,
They each get a point.
they each get a point.
And it tightens up that much more for first place in the race in the West Division. Rob Cote scored for the fullbacks getting involved, scored for the Calgary Stampeders in their first possession. Chris Zarka for Saskatchewan.
And the Roughriders will go to work on offense first, and they're going to work down to the end zone where all the Saskatchewan fans are. The sea of green, in effect, all the tickets for the Grey Cup seating that were available today were all bought by Saskatchewan fans. It's a sea of green there. And they want to seat their guys in the end zone here in the second round of overtime.
And Chris, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have not led in this football game. So in this overtime session right here, they get a field goal, they get a major. It'll be the first time all afternoon that Calgary has to come back and match them.
In 60 minutes plus. Gates the lone setback, and they quickly flare it out. And it's Chris Getzlaff. Norton Collins can't bring it down. Chris Getzlaff, another touchdown for Getzlaff and Big Ben.
Great blocking at the point of attack is going to spring Chris Getzlaff, who cuts back against the grain. The first lead of the game in the second overtime session for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Quick throw. This was the Weston Dressler play. Well, Weston Dressler is out, so you go to the next guy, Chris Getzlaff. Makes one guy miss, gets a block, cuts back against the grain. And now, Henry Burris has to find the major.
How about the Canadian Corps? Zarka with 3 touchdowns. Getzlaff has one. Vantuz has one. 2-point convert for Bagg. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders lead 44-37. And now it's in Henry Burris's hands.
Bubble screen to Chris Getzlaff. 1 step to the line, bubble in behind. Great block by Jason Claremont. That's the guy he has to make miss. That was Milton Collins. And then just outrun Malik Jackson to the end zone, and he's going to win that matchup. But a great block in the open field by the veteran Jason Claremont gives Chris Getzlaff, who was the hero the last time they played against each other.
Touchdown dedicated to Weston Dressler, his 5th of the year, and now Burris to work, and Sean Lucas has wrapped up Jermaine Copeland after a gain of 5. What's left today? Henry Burris.
A shootout in McMahon Corral. Over 40,000 with first place on the line. We go to double overtime.
And Hank's looking in that end zone saying, I want to get there, but it's full of green. 2nd and less than 5, a pump, and Burris takes off. He's got a first down and more. And taken down at the 13-yard line. Eddie Davis there, and look at Burris protect that football.
Oh, does he ever. And that's probably the best part of this play for the Calgary Stampeders and their fans. He's going to see the opening come to this side of the field, and he'll take advantage of that. Ray Williams up in the line of scrimmage kind of takes a sidestep to the inside, and that gets him caught. Then he's blocked. Now watch the protection of the football when contact's about to arrive on Burris.
13 yards away from a potential tie. Reynolds. And Joffrey down around the 5-yard line. He's run hard all day.
And Henry Burris, Chris, can get a first down before scoring here. Right now, 2nd and a couple.
Up to 140 yards.
They don't have to risk throwing. They can pound it in there with Joffrey Reynolds. 140 on the afternoon for him. And move the chains, get a full set right down on the goal line. It might be Reynolds all the way here.
No fake. Burris to the end zone. And Brett Ralph's got a touchdown. His 1st of the year.
What a way to break out of a slump. Brett Ralph has struggled over the last, and I think they'll take a look at this, but he has struggled over the last 4 games.
The previous play is under review.
And a great catch.
It was, and it looked like it went right off his thighs, not the ground, into his arms. And I think that's a touchdown catch for Brett Ralph. See his knees get underneath, his hands underneath the ball. I don't think that ball ever touched the turf.
Donovan Alexander right on the scene, but Ralph stuck with it. The slump is over.
How about the call?
Yeah, 2nd and 2.
You can pound it in there a couple of times. Joffrey Reynolds been your best player. And pound it in for the tying touchdown. Brett Ralph.
The ruling on the field stands. It is a touchdown.
There you go. Brett Ralph's been in a slump. You go play action, throw the ball, and you throw it to the guy who's been in that slump, who comes up, and guess what? He's got a hold for this important extra point. He needs to make 2 big catches.
And we all know how important the holder is. As DeAngelis tries to complete a tie game here at McMahon. What an afternoon of football. And we're not sure how the West is going to be won. because these two teams remain tied atop the CFL West now at 8-6-1. Well, it was a classic, maybe the game of the year, and they'll meet again to wrap up the season finale. The NASCAR pre-race show is next. So long from McMahon.